Welcome, villagers, to the village hidden in the stories. I am the one, the myth, the legend, All-Kage, formerly known as Little Ninja. But I have changed my name and put my name on this account, on this channel, because I felt that making a whole new account when I haven't even gotten this one to 1K was kind of a jump on my start. I shouldn't have done that. Well, I shouldn't have said that I was going to do that, and I'm sorry for that. So I'm coming back on this account to give you guys a 500K not 500K, 500 subscriber special, a 2-hour special for you guys right here, right now. A couple of things that we got to say before we get into this is I really liked working on this what if specifically. And another thing we got to say is yes, part 2s and part 3s and part 4s have been pushed back for a couple of reasons. One, the AI that I'm now using is it just no, it's like if you guys still like it, I hope you guys still like the AI or me enough to listen to this trash AI that I'm about to make play this fire what if that I had to make for like a few weeks. And I really hope that you guys like this what if, even though this AI is so much worse than I used to use than what I used to use. I think I said that right. I'm not editing it out anyway. But other than that, I'm just hoping that you guys still like the what if, even though this AI is about to butcher this what I have made. This is practically you'll see what I mean when you hear it. Another thing is, for what if Deku had the Omnitrix or whatever, uh, I will be continuing that for next week. That is the first what if that we're gonna be doing part 2s and part 3s and part 4s for. Next week, part 2, part 3, and 4 for what if Deku had the Omnitrix are coming out. But I still have to work on them. I will work on them quickly, but just know that they are coming out next week. And for oh yeah, the reason why I had Vilgax inside of the story because someone commented that they thought Vilgax was like not someone that I should have added, basically like just an add-on or whatever. Basically, like it wasn't a good idea. I mean, yeah, I see where you're coming from, but like I don't really have anyone right now that can actually go toe to toe with Izuku where he's will be at and where he currently is. Because one, the part 2 is going to explain a lot, and two, no other person on Earth could possibly take down Izuku unless it's either All for One, maybe All Might, and possibly what's his name? What's the guy with the you guys? I'll figure it out later. But he's the guy that just phases through stuff. That guy. Mainly because I'm giving that guy one for all, like he would have had if Izuku didn't exist. But other than those people, the only other things that I could imagine actually going toe to toe with Izuku would be legit another alien, someone OP. So that's mainly why I added Vilgax. He's gonna be a lot more powerful and a lot harder to deal with in this one, and he's basically gonna be like the main villain throughout the whole what if, like the main big bad. Uh, I might make it different as maybe when I think on it more, but for right now, that's the plan. Vilgax is the main villain. Sorry. But without further ado, let's get into this amazingly crafted what if. I almost forgot to tell you guys that we still do have shoutouts. Like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, we there was a person that commented about Vilgax. So technically, that's still shoutouts, but there's a lot more shoutouts than just that. So I'm gonna put them on screen right now. And here's the shoutouts for today. I hope that you guys keep commenting on my videos because it helps me out and it gives me ideas when you guys comment ideas for like what ifs or whatever, or suggestions for my what ifs that I've already made. Another thing is, I hope you guys like the video, like, subscribe, please do. It will help me out by getting me to 1K on this YouTube channel. Without further ado, let's really begin this amazingly crafted what if.
Chapter 1. New Adventures. A boy smiled as he watched with glee. His white hat covering his head, only allowing his face to be seen. His body was covered in a light blue t-shirt and dark blue pants with black shoes accented by his white socks. Last part of the boy's style was his green backpack, which was holding a beaten-down golden sword. The glasses on the secret blonde head-on accented his eyes as he watched a girl with vibrant pink hair work. The girl's skin was light pink. Her lab coat had been put over a pink queen/princess-like dress. The pink-haired woman had safety goggles which were clear lime green in color. The girl had been mixing things in a science tune, not paying much attention to the boy. "What's that, Princess Bubblegum?" the boy asked as the girl finally turned to the boy. "Well, Finn, I'm working on the compound to revive old Candy Kingdom citizens. Hand me that platter." Finn would walk over to a plate that had a silver cover over it and would pick it up. Walking over to the girl, the boy would wonder what was in the small dish. Couldn't be anything too surprising, but PB would suddenly take away the platter and place it on the table that she had been working on. The lab table being seen in a cemetery for candy people. The place of death was kinda creepy. Finn would turn to the princess expecting to see something needed for science to come out the platter. Instead, PB pulled out a sandwich from the thing. Of course, he was just overthinking it. It was just a little snack, he didn't have anything to be worried about. Jake was right, he had to stop being paranoid. These thoughts would be shattered as the pink-haired girl opened another platter which had the head of an old Candy Kingdom citizen. The boy would give a short-lived scream until he realized he was being watched by the girl in the lab coat. "I'm sorry." The pink-hat would wave it off. No, should have expected even the hero of do. If the text-to-speech said that wrong, don't blame me, I spelled it right. Would be a bit scared of the dead. No, it was just surprising. Who is that, by the way? Finn would look closer at the candy corpse as he tried to make out the man's features. Is that old Mr. Cream Puff? Princess Bubblegum would giggle a bit. We used to date. Finn wasn't paying attention to what the older woman had said as he was touching the unmoving body. PB would take a syringe and put it in the liquid compound. As the syringe contained the compound, the pink-haired girl would shove it into the dead candy man. Both would wait in suspense. The silence had covered the cemetery as a disturbance on life could be felt. Neither knowing what was going to happen as a result of them playing with the dead. And with the suspense slowly dying down, both would just stare at the corpse. Damn it. The princess would walk closer to the platter, staring intently, confused on why her compound didn't work. This is just why the hell didn't it? The princess's words would be stopped by the head of old Mr. Cream Puff jump at her. The head had green oz pouring out of it. The green substance fell slightly out of it as it roared at the girl. PB would slap the head out of the way, plunging it to the ground in surprise. Finn would have a big goofy grin as he looked at the reanimated corpse. Hey, it worked. The pink-haired girl would step back a bit, semi-horrified at the candy zombie she had just made. No. He's not revived. Just reanimated. The girl would shake her head. Quick, catch him before he can. Finn would rush ahead, not hearing what the girl had tried to say. Instead, the blonde would stab the thing with a reverberating war cry. The head would deform as the oz pulled her into the ground, giving the princess a more horrified look. The boy would look back to the girl, not expecting to see the sudden horror in her eyes. What? Finn, you just spread the disease to the other dead candy citizens. The pause was long as both Finn and Princess Bubblegum had waited for the walking dead candy citizens. Both would be confused with nothing coming at them. Scene change. The oz traveled through the ground, landing and seeping into the candy corpses. As they began to rise, tails of chocolate plunged through them, absorbing what bit of life energy they had. The space black tails would keep absorbing, sending the life force down through themselves as they connected to a blonde figure. The boy was wearing a black and red baggy cloak-like jacket. The black color extended to his shorts. Its puffy white ends going a little past his knees. His shoes were a mix of black and red sandals. In the boy's hand was a black orb that was constantly shifting around his hand. The boy suddenly woke, most likely from the energy he had been given. The tails of black energy moved back to the blonde. As they got closer, they began to disappear into his body, giving him a boost. As he raised his head in the ground, dirt and grime shifted when this happened, as it seemed he had been buried alive. The small facts becoming more clear. As if the boy opened his mouth, it would be filled with the very dirt he resided in. His face would become more clear, his unruly shoulder-length blonde hair somewhat accenting his blue eyes, which would go on to flash red for a split second as he began to take in the tails. The boy had 3 whisker marks on each side of his cheeks and an animalistic grin. The blonde began to move his arms, breaking away from the clumped-up dirt. With a roar, the boy's energy allowed him to burst out the ground. A flash of dark light enveloped the boy as well as the surrounding area. As he fell back to the ground, he landed in a crouch. Unknown to him, he was being watched by the ones that indirectly brought him back. Flashback. The same blonde had been a teen named Naruto Uzumaki, also known as the Keeper of the Beast. Of course, the world's past had shinobi who knew how to use the world's energy. It was crazy to think how much power people could have just by training. Might Guy and Rock Lee were a testament to that. Although after the 4th Great Ninja War it was clear nothing could be the same. There was a world that wanted to deform theirs for more power, and perhaps dangers and faces unknown. And after the war, Naruto had decided to protect what little they were, even if it meant giving up his dreams. The boy took the Tail Beast and made his own land for them. He also had learned how to use healing arts and many jutsu. Sasuke became the Hokage. Sakura became one of the most powerful medic ninjas out there, stronger than Tsunade. Kakashi died. Yeah, not all of the changes were good. But as the protector of the beast, he had a job to keep up, and he couldn't interfere with the ninja world anymore. That changed when the world wanted to interfere with him. Apparently Konoha had been crushed by the other cage. Tension between the villages. While Naruto was gone, they had another war. Sasuke wanted to protect his friend in his place of hiding, while the other cage wanted the Tail Beast back, and to put him a new host. They completely destroyed his old home just to find him. His village. His friends. His family. Gone because human nature had made the cage power hungry. There wasn't any ability for peace, and the shinobi decided to come after him. Even with the 9 beasts, hundreds of thousands of ninja were hard to battle against. This was mainly the fact that after Sasuke and Gaara had gone on and died in Stomping Cage, the nations decided to forget all the pain had happened from power. And with the fact that the elemental nations were only a small part of the planet, invisible to others, the new cages wanted a power that could easily destroy the world of knights and magic. Because of this, the Tail Beast gave him their chakra. This gave him their elements and a new evolved chakra pool. With this, he was able to put the army in the dirt, as well as making them look like fools while he was doing it. Unfortunately, the world had been greatly altered after the battle. The elemental nations unable to recover. And it felt as if the world would have been better off with no chakra. Slowly shinobi had began to die out. That was when Naruto had stretched his new Tail Beast chakra all out, and absorbed the rest of the chakra in the world. The boy's last quest was defeating the rest of the Otsutsuki that came for their chakra. The clan of aliens that wanted chakra to rule the galaxy. But who knows if they would have stopped there. Surprisingly, it wasn't hard to defeat the dying race. Just annoying. Worst part being most of them had no idea of the pain that the boy had felt over the years, making him lose his patience and making him semi-psychotic, which was really bad for the off-world power-hungry people. After that, Naruto had decided to learn most of all jutsu after figuring out his immortality. Because of his new Tail Beast chakra, as well as him being Uzumaki, he was immortal to a fault. It was stupid for him to have wanted more, but he still longed for his old friends, even as the rest of the world evolved. After that, the blonde became bored, and with no connections to the world, what was the point in this? There was no one to battle his power too great to be used in the world he now lived in. Even magic eventually dwindled. There was no great war he could be a part of that wouldn't be too easy for him to beat. And at the level he was at, he could topple the world governments in a matter of seconds, even with no ocular bloodline. This ended with the boy burying himself until something powerful enough was able to revive him. Flashback end. The blonde would look up to see the ones watching him, both staring at every move he made. When Naruto looked closer, he could feel something replacing chakra in both the boy and pink-skinned girl. Finn pulled up his sword, pointing it to the older male, having figured it would work to scare him a bit. Unfortunately, the blonde had realized the new guy hadn't seen the sword as a threat. A little fear would come out of Finn's voice as he kept his sword high, looking to the man who was steadying himself. "Who are you?" Naruto would yawn, then stretch as he slightly moved the sword out of his face. "Listen, kid, I've been asleep for a while and getting out was the best thing to have happened to me." The older blonde would put his hand to his chin and thought, "I don't know what I was thinking. Actually, I do know. But hey, the past is the past." The whiskered boy would look to the young blonde, seeing that he was still tense. It seemed as if his presence caused fear in both. Probably because of the massive amounts of energy rolling off of him as well as its potency. But these two had different energies that could be comparable to a tailed beast. Naruto would look to the sword. It seems the sword has energy from the boy in it, not just that, it has some other energy too. More potent. But less abundant. Whatever revived him had these two energies as well as something else. Naruto decided there was no point in wondering about it. He had to thank the kid that revived him. The blondes would stare at each other. One with fear and readiness. The other with a smile and confidence. Meanwhile, the pink cat had only been watching the two, wondering what happened for the boy to just burst out the ground. True, he seemed human in nature as well. But the energy that came off of him was too powerful for him to be human. "Didn't you hear me? Who are you?" Finn fixed his stance, knowing if this man were to attack, he had to be perfect with his reaction. This would make Naruto give a slight reaction to the boy. The blonde had saw the potential in the young blue-shirted warrior. Not to mention he saw a bit of himself in the kid. "Sorry." The whiskered boy would laugh a bit. "I'm Naruto Uzumaki. And I'm not gonna attack you." The words didn't register to the boy for a while until the man had given a smile of apology. "Oh, I'm sorry. I kinda have you at sword point right now." It would be hard for Finn and PB to relax, but eventually the three had gotten settled with Naruto fixing the crater that he had made. Seeing this, the young blonde began to walk to the older male. "So? What magic was that?" Naruto would look to the boy and laugh. "Give me a second. Still kinda shell-shocked by the fact I can finally move. Also got to figure out how to suppress my chakra." Finn would look confused as Naruto said this. "What's chakra?" This would get a deadpan look from the whiskered blonde until he had looked forward, rethinking what he thought the world would be like. He was kinda hoping people still knew of chakra even if they couldn't use it. But it seemed like as time passed, some sort of other energy had replaced chakra. Most likely magic from the old lands that made up America. It didn't matter much, but Naruto didn't really want to explain chakra when he barely understood it himself. Naruto would focus on his inner energy and start to suppress his presence. As if a weight had been taken off Finn and PB, they exhaled a bit of air. "Is that better?" Naruto would look to the two, who seemed to be much more relaxed. "Heck yeah, man. What did you do?" The whiskered man smiled. "I just compressed my presence. Because I have so much chakra." The man suddenly stopped, having remembered the two had no knowledge on what he was talking about. "Oh yeah. You just asked what chakra was. Right." Finn would nod, waiting to get an answer from the older blonde. For Naruto, it was nice to see the world still had people who were interested in things like this at the least. It would be weird if the world grew so much without him that all people lost curiosity. "Well, think of chakra as the energy I use for, well, I guess you can say magic. Although if magic does exist now, mine is very much different. And is called jutsu." Naruto would smile at the boy. "Any other questions?" Finn would shake his head, having had his questions answered very quickly. "So can you tell me where I am? Being asleep for so long means things must have changed, right?" Finn would sit next to Naruto, thinking on what he had said. Yeah, things were bound to change. Things change all the time. And if the blonde was really asleep for that long, it meant things must have changed a lot. "Well, this is the land of U. There are many kingdoms here, but it's mainly grasslands, to be honest. Other than that, it's pretty chill." Naruto would grin. "Any strong people to fight?" The boy would quickly respond, getting used to the older blonde. "Yeah, tons." The two began to talk, with Finn catching Naruto up on most of the happenings in U. Meanwhile, Princess Bubblegum had moved to her castle, leaving the two to their devices. Time skip. Naruto needed more answers from this world. So for the first week he had crashed with Finn and his brother, who was a yellow dog. Yeah, it really didn't make much sense, but hey, what could the blonde ask for? He was in a new world, for crying out loud. Other than that, when the blonde wasn't sleeping, he made trips for hours to his vast library, meaning he wasn't at the treehouse for long. Especially with him wanting more answers, the questions. Even if Naruto had lost some of his marbles, enough of him was there to the point he wanted information. It was taught in the academy that information was a shinobi, a best friend anyway. So it was natural he wanted the very information that would explain what happened while he was out. And give information it did. He hadn't thought that magic would take over again. Last he checked, magic was so weak. Even chakra in its weakest form could beat it. Although even excluding the magic, Naruto had been surprised by the new world he was in. The land he was in now was the main continent in the world, made mostly from the US of the old world, and maybe some of Japan as well. Mainly cause he couldn't really have been here any other way. Because the elemental nations had become Japan. With the absence of chakra, the once hidden place had become visible to everyone. This was another reason the blonde had sealed himself away. The world he lived in had already changed so much. Chakra was only known to some as energy lost to time, similar to magic in how it was weakened over the years. And after some time, Naruto not only had to stay out of the world's affairs with his moral obligations, as well as the pure fact it would just be unfair to everyone, but he also was beginning to become annoyed with having to hide. It was cramped for him on Japan. No room be seen, for his presence was too much for anyone to handle. The planet of elemental nations had been changed as well as its elements. Apparently, from what the blonde had found out, his world was but an afterthought, as so much had happened while he sealed himself. Magic had begun to thrive again, most notably in candy, which apparently was an element. Ice, fire, and slime. Ice and fire the blonde could get, but slime and candy. Who was the idiot who went and fucked that up? People could have had way better magics than that. But then again, Naruto wasn't complaining. It wasn't his history to judge. That went the problem anyway. Apparently the four magics had been on Earth long before the Otsauki had put themselves in the center of attention. With that being said, the elemental nations were created by Kaguya as a result of the world tree trying to spread to the other lands it was a part of. Which was understandable since the lady was technically evil. Just wrong in the way she was trying to grant peace. However hypocritical it was for the blonde to have thought that Kaguya still had tried to turn everyone into zombies after taking their chakra, while Naruto had only taken the energy into himself to not harm the new vast and growing world. There were other things the whiskered male had found out as well, but they were more minor, to be completely honest. Nothing too important. And even with the clones, he still took some time to read through most of basic information he had. Especially if couldn't make as many as he wanted with the threat of getting kicked out of the library. Naruto yawned as he stopped reminiscing about his time spent in the past. The boy stretched as he got up, ready to finally get out of this place. He was done with books after all that. He never really liked them anyway. Especially if he wasn't going to learn some sort of jutsu from them. But the information was needed anyway. Even if the blonde wouldn't admit it to a soul around. Naruto would put the books he had taken out for his last day back and started to make his way to the front of the place, stopping at the turtle-like librarian, who was also a princess. He couldn't understand why there were so many princesses in this place. And why princesses? Sure, nobles were most of the time corrupt and easy to handle as a shinobi. And how there wasn't enough information from his past to have allowed Cage to be in this world. But for the love of God, wasn't there meant to be a king and a queen before princesses? And to roundabout on monarchy instead of anything else? Or maybe he missed the other governments. But with what Naruto read, it was unlikely. The blonde would look down to the girl with a kind smile, wanting to lay back on something that wouldn't hurt his back. Tiredness visible in his eyes. Hey, I put my books back and am ready to go. The girl had just left and handed the man a pen. Naruto would sign out of the library, walking boredly back to the tree house. Walking in, the blonde would climb up to the second floor. He expected to see Finn and Jake. Or at least Bimo here by himself. The little robot boy TV computer thing was kinda like a little brother. He could at least hang out with him if Finn and Jake were out on an adventure. But seriously, why was there some random girl sitting on the boy's couch messing around with Bimo? Said girl was pale-skinned with black hair. Fangs protruding from her mouth accented by her round but semi-pointed ears and black eyes. She was wearing a black tank top, blue jeans and red shoes. The weirdest part about this was the fact she was floating midair from the couch she was seemingly sitting on. He knew about magic being a thing now, but to be honest, that was just kinda counterintuitive. Why even attempt to sit on a chair if you know you're just gonna float? Or maybe she was just doing it on purpose. Either way, he didn't know why the girl was here or where Finn and Jake were. She probably knew something, but he didn't really want to deal with it. This new Earth seemed kinda episodic anyway. But then again, the two could actually be in danger. Naruto began to approach the girl, not expecting her to jump at him. Her face shifted into something more bat-like as she roared at the blonde. Naruto would be unfazed, staring directly into the girl's new blood-red eyes. Her face would contort into a bored frown. "Who are you?" The girl would float away, going back to playing some game on Bimo. I asked. "I don't care, new guy." The blonde would raise his eyebrow. "That's very rude. Can you at least tell me where Finn and Jake are?" The black-haired girl would turn back to the whiskered boy in sudden interest. "You know Finn and Jake?" "Yeah, they let me crash here cause I kinda just revived not too long ago. But hey, you don't care, so I should just look for them myself. Name's Marceline. Marceline, the vampire queen." The blonde would raise his eyebrow once more. This girl was really unreadable. His chakra couldn't sense her emotions. The one thing he could sense was something similar to demonic yoki coming off of her. Wasn't as potent as his, but still similar to maybe Son Goku. She wasn't anything to mess with, especially with his weakened control over his black chakra. To think his chakra had been absorbing things for years without revitalizing him. If he was being completely honest, Jutsu would be hard for him to use. He probably could only use one-tailed cloak if he pushed himself. It was like being back when he first fought Sasuke. He was lucky clones still were as easy as they were. Getting out of his musings, Naruto would stare at the black-haired beauty. "So do you know where they are?" Marceline would look back up at the blonde. "Oh yeah, I do. I was messing with them, to be honest. Convinced them to leave." The girl would close her eyes, grinning a bit. "I mean, this was one of my old hideouts. I'm gonna give it to the two, but wanted to mess with them first. I think Jake is a little scared of me." Naruto would snicker at this. He loved a good prank. Even if he was tired. Had to respect the girl for getting one over on his roommates. "I was actually just about to go out and find them. Pretty sure I sensed them stumbling upon one of my other old spots. Want to come?" The blonde would shrug, not minding staying up a bit more to find the two adventurous. "Yeah, I'll come. Also, you know that Game Boy is alive, right?" "Note. I know it's a corny joke, but hey, what can you do about it?" Bimo would turn off the game that Marceline was playing and would jump out of her hands. The small boxy boy screen would change to show a basic semi-pixelated face. "Thanks, Naruto." The two would silently watch the robot boy run off quickly upstairs. "Wow. Yeah." Naruto would sigh and turn back to Marceline. "I really don't understand this new world sometimes." The black-haired girl would chuckle and would float down the ladder of the tree house. "They really fixed this place up, you know." Naruto would grin and jump down. "Why did you not leave it like this?" The girl would chuckle a bit. "Hell no. It was way worse when I left this tree. Kinda glad to see it all fixed up though. I really don't have much use for it though. I already have a house." "Really?" "Yeah, just was bored and reminiscing about vampire junk. And some of my past when I found the tree house again." The two would walk out the treehouse, making their way to Finn and Jake while talking. "Thought I could pass some time by messing with the two wads." Naruto would chuckle a bit. "They may be wads, but they got the right stuff for adventuring. And the heart. Bet PB sees it too." Marceline would stop and thought for a few seconds, making the blonde look back to her. "You okay, Marceline?" "Yeah. I'm good." Marceline would float ahead of Naruto seemingly in thought about something. The blonde would have realized what about pretty much as soon as she stopped walking. He used to be a shinobi for Glob's sake. Of course he could read the girl's mood. But to think that the vampire girl has a past with PB. Maybe they were friends and they fell out hard. Usually he wouldn't feel the need to pry on people's past. But he really didn't want to ignore the girl's feelings towards the subject. Maybe he could help. You two have history. The vampire queen would look back to the blonde. UNPB. She would not but would quickly dismiss it. It's nothing. It's not important. Naruto would put his hand on the girl's shoulder, causing her to turn back. The shinobi would give a small smile. I know we just met, but if you ever need to talk about, just tell me. The black-haired girl would smile back, then jokingly punched the blind side. You're weird, dude. You can't give me some heartfelt speech out of nowhere. It wasn't a speech. The boy would whisper to himself. And that's how I defeated some of my enemies back when I first started being a shinobi. Marceline would deadpan, giggling a bit after hearing Naruto with her heightened hearing. Really? Yeah? The two would laugh at this for a bit, eventually calming down. So? I didn't ask before, but are you human? Naruto would raise his eyebrow, not really confused at the question. He was more confused at the answer, if anything. He could understand the fact a vampire would want to know. But he was probably assuming things. It could be the fact that Finn was the only human he knew. So it would be very confusing if another human just randomly came back from the dead. And he didn't know if he was a human anymore. Technically, when he became immortal, he was still human. He was still him. His chakra was the same, his genetics were the same. And he wasn't any different from most people. Aside from him being immortal and having whisker marks on his cheeks. But when his chakra mutated into its black state, the question always appeared in his head. Was he still the same? Or was he a Tilbeats now? He didn't think about it much back when he was going through his don't mess with the world phase. But now he didn't know if he was a human immortal shinobi prankster psychopath. Or if he wasn't himself at all. Sometimes he wondered if he was a shadow clone back when he was 13. But thinking on it more, he knew he was human still. Flashback. Naruto had been frozen in terror, looking straight dead at a small bunny. Beside him was a stoic Jiraiya who seemed to be getting impatient with every second. In the blind's hand was a kuni, the small object being pointed at the bunny in front of him. Naruto would sharply close his eyes, wanting to turn away from what he needed to do. Keep your eyes open. This is something we need to nip in the bud now. Before you go out fighting as a ninja again. Now do it. The blonde would open his eyes and would lunge at the bunny, ending quickly. Blood would drip on the blonde hands from the blade as the bunny's head landed beside him. The boy grabbed his chest and began to hyperventilate. Still not able to grasp what he did, with every second seeming like agony. Suddenly it would stop, with the boy feeling warmth from his sensei. The old man calming him down. It's okay, Naruto. Deep breaths. The boy would begin to calm down, burying himself in Jiraiya's arms. This was the first time Naruto's mask had ever failed. He didn't want to take a life. That was something he grew up knowing villains did. Heroes never took lives. So why did he have to? The boy's thoughts would stop when Jiraiya spoke again. You will need to kill. It may not seem like the right thing. And of course you won't get used to it. But as a shinobi, this is something you need to learn to do. But remember this one thing. You are still human as long as you are yourself. Be truthful to who you are. And no matter what change. Even if you became a missing nin. You will always be you. Flashback end. Naruto had a small smile on his face. Hell, even he knew now that not many are considered human. But he and Finn were. Even if he was a bit superhuman with his chakra and jutsu. Like his sensei said all those years ago. Naruto would turn to Marceline, ready to answer her question. No matter what. As long as I stay true. And don't enjoy killing. I'm human. Even if I am a bit superhuman. I was born human. I haven't been changed much. And because of that. As well as the fact I haven't fully lost my marbles. I'm still me. The boy would smile at his new friend, engaging silence flowing over the both of them. The same silence would be broken by laughter. Dude, I just asked if you were human. But it seems like you had some internal trouble there. If you ever need to talk about, just tell me. Naruto would sweat drop. The girl just had to use his own words against him. Oh ha ha. The two would begin to laugh again as they kept walking and eventually got to the cave. I might move my house into this cave when the two leave. A grin would start to form on the black-haired girl's face. An idea would creep into her head, making her quickly appear behind Naruto. You seem to have liked the prank that I had already done. Naruto would grin. While a bit overkill for a simple prank, it was clever. I'll give ya that. This would make Marceline pout a bit, turning away from the blonde only to turn back. Anyway, wanna mess with the two with me? A slight grin would start to appear on the two's faces, both already knowing the answer. The black-haired girl moved closer to Naruto, quickly whispering the plan in his ear. Time skip. Naruto had walked into the seemingly normal cave. The earth-made home was surprisingly large and beautiful. Why, he felt he would have more adventure with Finn and would stay roommates with the kid. He couldn't deny the cave was possibly a good spot to live in. As long as you set up a home inside or something. Not like he would just live in the cave. That wouldn't be weird for him. He camped out without tents before. He was a shinobi, it was natural. Would be fun to crawl around on the cave as well. The blonde began to move deeper into the cave, it echoing his wet footsteps. As he walked on the water that flowed in the cave, he started to hear sounds of music and laughter. Honestly, random laughter in a cave would just make any normal person of the past leave. Yeah, any normal person would just leave. Good thing Naruto wasn't normal. The ripples in the water finally stopped as the blonde touched solid ground. As he kept going, he could see the dim light of the campfire as his footsteps still echoed through the big cave. Naruto got closer and he finally stumbled upon Finn and Jake, as well as some bears and Candy Kingdom citizens. Another weird thing to figure out anew. The whiskered boy would sigh as he walked to Finn, dancing unaware to his blonde brother. Hey Finn. The boy would jump and scream in a high pitch, quickly toning down the screen as he realized it was just one of his friend. Oh hey Naruto. What are you doing here? The shinobi of past would stretch, paying no attention to the stares he got from everyone but Finn. Mainly Jake, as he saw two red dots on the blonde's neck. Naruto had already sensed the small amount of fear coming off Jake. Marcy was right when she said the yellow hound was scared of vampires. Yo, be honest, he didn't think the dog was scared of much, but he could understand vampires if he wasn't immortal and a shinobi. The blood-sucking race reminded him of that one cage. Man, she was worse than any vampire. Fuck, a bite of death, any male would be entranced by her. And realize that she will literally suck your soul out with the kiss of death. The blonde unknowingly shivered from his thoughts. I'm here to carry out orders from my queen. Naruto would don a grin that showed his fake fangs. The fangs had embracing everyone with fear. The candy citizens and beats had unsurprisingly fled, with Finn looking deep in his fellow blonde's eyes. As the boy kept staring, he finally realized who Naruto was talking about. Unnoticed in his brother's frozen-in-place fear. Marceline got you. Finn would look to the whiskered male's neck, seeing the red bite mark. The wound seemed to be fresh and unhealing. Unknown to the two brothers, everything was going according to plan. Step 1. Set fear in any nearby people. Step 2. Freeze the powerful shapeshifter. Step 3. Big entrance. Suddenly a shadowy form of smoke appeared behind Naruto. The smoke began to build up, as well as somewhat stretching along the floor. The sun-like element of nature began to take a feminine shape. The smoke would pass as Marceline would be behind Naruto. Both would give a devilish grin, with shadows covering most of their face and fangs gleaming in cave. A breeze of cold air would flow through the cave, making Finn and Jake shiver. Silence filled the cave, with the only sound being the crackling of the fire. So you found them, Naruto? Yes, my queen. Good. Marceline would begin to twitch up, staring at Jake as Naruto did the same, but directed towards Finn. Both brothers were fully frozen in fear, knowing the two could pounce at any moment. And if they did, they would be dead. Please don't kill me, take Finn instead. Hey. Jake would look sheepish and shrug at his brother. The fire suddenly went out. Two pranksters moved in. The two hissed at Finn and Jake respectively, causing them both to scream out, close their eyes and cover themselves with their arms. After a while, the two brothers expected to have felt a bite or something, but as they realized nothing happened, they would slowly open their eyes. Finn and Jake would see the two seemingly vampires cackling. A certain blonde holding himself trying to stop laughing would be without the bite marks that signified him as a vampire. "You're not gonna eat us." The two would finally calm down, Marceline floating over to Finn. "No. It was a prank. Sorry if it went too far. I just like yo mess with people." Marceline would give a smile. "Oh, and I'm giving back the treehouse. Your friend over there is pretty convincing." Finn and Jake would look at Naruto, making the blonde give a wave. "Oh. Okay. Plus I don't really drink blood. It's not like I'm gonna." Marceline would jump at Finn and Jake, hissing. This would make the two run towards Naruto, shivering. The blonde would chuckle a bit. "See ya, Marcy. Keep in touch." Naruto would throw a paper note to the black-haired girl with a grin. "It's a ceiling area I made. You can use it to contact me. If you have a phone, just slap it on the back of it." After that, the three had made their way back to their old home. "So you're not a vampire?" Naruto would laugh. He was immortal and had a better healing factor than anyone in this time. He wouldn't be able to become a vamp even if he wanted to. And plus, the only vampire that wouldn't die from trying to drink his blood was Marceline. He knew that mainly from the amount of yoki she had. But from what he can tell, it's an abnormal amount of yoki. So any other vampire wouldn't be able to handle his black chakra when biting him. It would have the same effect as the sun. He's also pretty sure that Marceline is the only vamp with yoki. "No. I can't be infected by most anything because of my powers." Jake would look at the blonde in awe. "What I would give to be vampire immune." Short silence would cover the three, once more to be broken by Finn. "So wait. If you're here and not in the library, did you finish your research?" Naruto would give a thankful sigh, finally realizing he could relax. "Hell yeah, I'm done. Finally. I hated reading all those books." The blonde would stretch, still feeling the effect of laying on a wooden table. Finn would grin, feeling excited even if the three had a long day. "So you can finally adventure with us." Naruto would stop for a bit in thought. "Well, I can, but I think a day of training is best for tomorrow. I can't help you guys with the skills I have now. While I'm more powerful, I can't do everything I once was able to do." The blonde would open his hand, looking at it, focusing to try and make a Rasengan. "As well as me having less control over my chakra. I can't even make a Rasengan." Jake and Finn would look at Naruto's hand. The same hand he had stopped to stare at. "What's a Rasengan?" Naruto would tilt his head and cross his arms, going back in thought. "It was my signature move back before you and PB revived me. It was very powerful. I mastered and protected it. Then made multiple versions of the technique, along with some other techniques I had learned." Finn would grin. "Is it like magic?" Naruto would shake his head. "Finn, we went over this. I don't have the affinity for magic of any kind. Because of my chakra. Although magic and chakra are sometimes very similar." Naruto's fellow blonde would give a sheepish grin, remembering some of the explanations his friend had given. "Right." Naruto would yawn as he opened the door of the treehouse and started to climb up the ladder to the next floor. "I explain more with training tomorrow." The whiskered male would lay on the couch as his friends went to their room. "Hopefully I can get back to my old level. Finn and Jake are like high tuning. With my combat right now, I'm low tuning. Marcy is around high tuning. Her other forms put her at high tuning. She probably has other abilities too, meaning she could be cage level. Maybe Sannin. Before the time he went up and slept for thousands of years, he was at least galactic level. Possibly dimensional. Now that he thought about it, why didn't he just go on and do some sort of space adventure? With his speeds and immortality, he could have checked every planet in the Milky Way for something to do. Hell, he would have checked past the Milky Way. It would have only taken him a few minutes to go to each galaxy and even less to get to each planet in this solar system alone. Well, too late for that. He had to explore this planet first before anything. Even if he just got here, he was gonna have some fun. Chapter 2. Getting back to it. Naruto had been out front of the treehouse, having made 500 clones. With that, the man divided them into 5 groups. One group for training on jutsu. One training on chakra control. Another to train on his taijutsu katas. Second to last group was trying to figure out how to tap into his tail beast cloaks. and the finale group was working on sealing techniques. All the groups were working as much as they could. Each one of his clones had something to do and would accomplish it. This was all work to get him back to his old level. He couldn't expect to beat anyone if he wasn't at his best. Surprisingly, the only training that had gotten results was chakra control. Naruto yawned as he sat on the grassy field concentrating on his black chakra. He wouldn't normally be doing this. The blonde didn't have much to do with Finn and Jake still asleep. He wanted some more control before he went on the adventure with them. He wondered about the book they were going to set off to get. It couldn't be some random book if it counted as an adventure. Apparently the two had forgotten all about the book for a while. They were originally going to get it a week ago, but they got distracted by his arrival and him settling down over the week. They also still seemed tired after yesterday. Probably was best to wait for them to wake. He didn't care all that much about waiting. But having nothing to do really bored him. Short training was essential, but this training was especially slow. Naruto sighed and lowered his head, trying to get more control over his chakra. The blonde's eyes open, feeling his chakra having obeyed him all of a sudden. Naruto would poof all of his clones, confused at the sudden reaction from his energy source. Why would it all of a sudden get easier to use? That didn't make any sense. Naruto would form a Rasengan. His signature spiraling orb was now black in color and spinning with more power. Going through his chakra control clone's memories, he couldn't find anything that would give this much sudden control. The orb of chakra had disappeared. And Naruto had jumped up to see if he could use something. The whiskered male launched through hand signs, then grinned. The jutsu he had learned all coming back to him. The boy took a deep breath and then blew out a puff of black smoke. What the hell was that? Naruto would look at his hands. He had did everything right for the jutsu. The hand signs and pulling his chakra in each one. Why hadn't he been able to make a fireball? He thought for a bit. Why could he had make the Rasengan? Naruto sat back down and thought. Sure, he was more used to the Rasengan, but what had he done for the Rasengan that he didn't do for the fireball? Naruto's eyes would widen. That what the Rasengan had been like second nature for him. When he made it, he just let his chakra flow. Which was what the jutsu had you to do to even use it. But that must have carried over to his coils. As a shinobi, he was taught to pull on his chakra, which was why at first the Rasengan was so hard to use. But his new chakra wasn't shinobi chakra. It had been made to flow, not pull. That would explain why he hadn't been able to make the Rasengan last night. He had been trying too hard to pull on his chakra when it had changed to the point it would resist his pull. Same thing with the shadow clone jutsu and why he could only make 500 clones. With his new information, Naruto decided to test it out. The blonde felt his tail beast chakra. But instead of pulling on it, he guided the energy through his body. He felt the potent black chakra flow through him. Suddenly Naruto's eyes would open in an instant, flowing through hand signs faster than he ever had. The boy felt lighter, as if the weight of his chakra had been holding him down from him, thinking like a ninja. He felt as if he had been being held back from the beginning. The blonde would finally stop on the last hand sign and blow out a massive black fireball. The raging ball of black flames toppled over the treehouse, making seem as small as any normal tent. As fast as it had appeared, the jutsu of black flames had disappeared. Naruto grinned. Of course he would need to train on all his old jutsu. It was hard trying not to pull on his chakra while using a jutsu. But he was sure he could get through it without complaining. He had just gained a giant leap in power in his training. Maybe he could apply the same premises to his tail beast modes. He most likely only was able to use the first tailed cloak. He probably shouldn't think of using TCM or six-path sage mode. Those were probably too advanced. Same with some of his other jutsu and Rasengan variants. He wondered how his tailed elements had changed. His chakra had evolved from basic 10 tails chakra to the black chakra. And it seemed to have made the fireball 10 times more powerful. Maybe the same would happen to the elements his old friends had given him. Time skip. Naruto had trained with his chakra until Finn and Jake woke up to go and get the book. The blonde had found that he could use C and D rank jutsu, not counting Rasengan, fireball jutsu and shadow clone. Other than that, he was able to use 1 to 3 tail cloak. He had also left some clones at the treehouse to get some work done. Naruto also started to work on Sage Chakra. Now the direct opposite of his own chakra. The nature chakra was going to be hard to use, but hopefully he would be able to use it soon. Now Naruto, Finn and Jake went to get the Enchiridion, a book meant to teach up-and-coming totally righteous heroes. According to the brothers. So where is this so-called Enchiridion? Princess Bounce Gum said it's a dungeon around here. Finn would look in the distance trying to find something to lead them to the dungeon. The boy would grin and point at a grassy gate. See over there. That's got to be it. Naruto would raise his eyebrow. Who made a gate out of plants? Couldn't someone just jump through it? Finn would lead the way to the gate, his brother and fellow blonde following closely. As they got closer, the place seemed to be flowing with magic, which was probably why the gate was a grassy bush. The gate also had stretched long ways, meaning it would probably take them all day to get the book. It wasn't like most dungeons either. It was more like a trial area, which made sense with what Finn had said before. The book was meant for righteous heroes. They probably would need to prove themselves in some way. The three would stop at the entrance of the gate, seeing a small man with a greenish tint on his skin. The man was wearing blue robes and a blue key-like hat. As soon as the gate guard was able to see Naruto, Finn and Jake, he had taken in a deep breath of air. Welcome, travelers, to the gate of the Enchiridion. The powerful book has been waiting for a user or a few to seek its power. I know you do. To find the lost treasure, you need a key of its whereabouts. Don't look to me. The little man would ramble, not noticing the shorter blonde had picked him up, the whiskered boy and the yellow dog closely behind. Naruto would have been the first to figure out the puzzle. It was obvious it only took the blonde as soon as he saw the old man what to do. Finn and Jake figured it out almost as fast as their friend, mainly because of the green guy's rambling. As the hat-covered blonde had finished unlocking the gate, the entrance doors had opened to allow the three in. As they looked ahead, they were able to see the vast place of plants and trees. Its wonderful mysteries entrancing Finn and Jake and leaving Naruto on his toes. You have figured out the first puzzle. The whiskered blonde would sigh bored at the old man as he began to ramble on again. The boy would turn to his friends, trying to leave quickly. Might as well go, he is just gonna keep rambling on. The three would nod at each other, speed walking through the gate unnoticed by the gate-key man. The three walked through the forest with silence mainly covering them, each boy having a grin. To break the silence, Finn turned to Naruto and thought. So Naruto, did you finish your training? The two blonde would look at each other with the older giving a small grin. Well, yeah. But I feel like there is a bit more I could do. Naruto would scratch his cheek. I mean, sure, finally being able to do jutsu feels great. But I can't do them as fast as I used to. I even have to focus on leading and flowing my chakra instead of pulling on it when using hand signs. Finn would stare confused at his friend, unknowing in his rambles as he began to speak on like the man they had left at the gate. Oh, sorry. I guess I'm rambling. All you need to know is I kinda finished it. The blondes would grin at each other. You should let us join sometime. Attention would be directed to Jake as he spoke. Maybe I will. It could help me to have a spar or two. The magic dog would laugh. Great. The whiskered boy would turn back to look forward as the three began to stumble on a clearing in the vast forest. It had seemed that the trees had ended after a few minutes of walking. So the forest must not have been a big part of the place. As the friends walked farther, they would stop at a grassy plain and sit. I don't know what that old man was rambling on about. Naruto would open a scroll. To hell with trials. We haven't encountered a single one. Jake would chuckle. Maybe he was just being creepy. Or trying to scare us. Finn would look around, not seeing any close danger around. It had surprised the three. Nothing had happened for a while. It had already been a few minutes after walking and still nothing. No attacker, no creepy trials. No weird mission or quest. So what exactly stopped people from coming to get the Enchiridion whenever they wanted? The whiskered boy would slap a seal on the scroll, unsealing instant ramen from the scroll as Finn took sandwiches out the bag and handed Jake one. Naruto started a quick black fire to warm up some water he had brought. He didn't have an infinite water source anymore because his black chakra had turned the drinkable water into blood. While the older blonde waited for his water to come to a boil, he began to sit in a toad squat. The boy had distracted his two friends after having closed his eyes to focus on the natural chakra in the world. The two brothers stared at their friend and began to poke him, realizing he was basically asleep. This would put a grin on both Fingers and Jake as they began to go through plans. As his friends plot something, Naruto had connected with the still flourishing Sage Chakra. It seemed entrancing as a sage, but the chakra had a dark tint to it, as if something was corrupting it to the point it wanted to cause darkness in the already semi-destroyed or apocalyptic world. The blonde started to purify the untamed chakra as he thought about how Sage Chakra still survived. Maybe it had been used by summons to survive after he had taken chakra. Maybe taking all chakra did have consequences. He could have hurt the summons by doing that. They probably weren't equipped to survive on Earth, so they were more likely to stay in the summon worlds. Naruto wondered for a bit as he started to absorb and purify the chakra, filtering it with his black chakra to keep out the taintedness of Sage Chakra. As the blonde opened his eyes, he was no longer in the forest of the Enchiridion. He was on a clearing in a mountain. Looking at himself, the whiskered boy saw he wasn't really there. More so a projection of blue light and Sage Chakra. Looking in a puddle, Naruto could see his eyes, having expected the toad pupils known to be with Sage mode. Instead, his eyes had a star pattern in them, as well as being a shade of lighter blue than his normal eyes. The markings on the outside his eyes had changed to match the makeup-looking marks being blue. To Naruto it seemed that a lot had changed in the summon world. For one, he could sense more than one type of summon in the mountain. Seemed the summons had figured out their differences. Another thing the boy realized is a summon was coming right for him. A toad had launched himself up into the air and landed directly in front of Naruto. The sight of a giant toad bigger than any giant toad he had ever seen had completely appalled the boy. And if that didn't seem confusing enough, the toad seemed to be familiar. That darker orange only reminded him of two toads. And the rough skin was crimson, so it had to be. Naruto would scream out to the toad that had towered over him in size. "Kamakachi. Is that you?" The rough-skinned toad wearing a kimono and three swords had looked down at the faded blue boy. The giant summon looked questionably as if had been confused and or not believing what he had saw. The toad began to move down, still very visibly confused. "Naruto." The two old friends would grin at each other. Both were still surprised the other was still alive, one more than the other. "How are you still alive, you old blonde?" Naruto would laugh. "Could ask the same for you. I thought toad summons only lived to 1,000 years. The old toad had started to laugh. The laugh had shocked the very ground Naruto's visage stood on. The ground had started to crack from the laugh, only stopping when the toad had calmed down. Kamakachi had given a grin to his old friend. "My friend. Luckily I was in the era of toads where we evolved to live longer. This also had allowed most toads my age to use the new type of Sage Chakra, which we kinda had to use with your disappearance." Naruto had given a sheepish chuckle. Still sorry for his early mistakes. "Yeah, sorry about that." The blonde began to scratch his head. "I really wasn't thinking much back then." Kamakachi would give a nod, giving Naruto a signal that it was fine. "Come on, follow me to the summon village. We are gonna have to see the sage so you can sign our new contract. It also seems you have an aptitude for the new Sage Chakra as well. Even if the new world has tainted it a bit, it will be easier for you here since it isn't tainted in the summon lands." The giant toad would turn around and slap the mountain in front of him, making a hole bigger than the toad appear. This made Naruto think of something bigger than Kamakachi. He had grown this much since he saw him. How could there be a summon bigger? That just didn't make sense. Naruto followed his old friend closely. As they moved through the village, the blonde was able to see different summons all over. The village wasn't even a village with its sheer size and numbers. He was able to see smaller summons play, while bigger ones trained. He saw some smaller training too, but it wasn't as noticeable as the bigger ones. Now that he thought about it, why did they need to train? There wasn't anyone that could really get to them. Or was there? Maybe there was something that was worse than the Otsutsuki. That was the only explanation for the training. Or they were keeping themselves fit as a way to keep the summons alive. The village did seem to be peaceful. No sign of worry even with the ones training. It was still confusing though. No matter however long it had been, he never expected to see Kamakachi again. Eventually the two would stop at a tower similar to the old toad that had give Kiryu that prophecy. The two would walk in with Naruto half expecting to attack in the pitch black tower. Kamakichi would stop as Naruto had expected some wise old sage toad from the past. What he didn't expect was a taller Gamatatsu. Out of all the summons that he had expected to be a sage, he didn't take Gamatatsu for one. Hey Naruto. Long time no see. Naruto would be in awe looking up at the human-sized toad. So, you're the great sage. Gamatatsu would chuckle a bit seeing his old friend's surprise. Yeah, I know, not really what anyone expected. But I mellowed it after a few thousand years. I'm not the only sage master either. We have 6. Naruto would grin a bit. Happy there was at least some more people that could teach him how to use sage mode. He just hoped he wasn't hit as often as he was when he was first learning the power. Time skip. Naruto had took his time in on Sage Mountain. He had learned the power of Sage mode had evolved very much. The Sage chakra had evolved differently in each summon clan, allowing abilities similar Yo bloodlines in all of the summons. And the blonde had aptitudes got all of them. Most likely because he wasn't a summon himself. Sage mode had also given gravity control and tech control similar to that of the Renegan. Along with its other abilities that had been strengthened, Sage mode was able to be stronger depending on how much Sage chakra he had took in. The Sage was happy to have a form of power he was somewhat used to. But just like his black chakra, he would have to train to learn how to let it flow. As the Sage chakra had evolved similar to his tail beast chakra. Opening his eyes, Naruto hadn't expected to see Finn and Jake sleep on the grass. Seemed they didn't leave him while he was in Sage mode. That put a smile on the blonde's face, feeling he could trust his new friends. What he didn't realize is his friends had drew all along his face. Currently the blonde had black ink glasses, mustache and a couple of words on his face. When the boy found his reflection in his boiled water, he had scowled. Of course they had messed with him while he was practically asleep. The blonde would sigh and would pour his water into the opened cup of instant ramen. Then he would use his chakra to burn off the marks on his face. Time skip. In the morning, Naruto, Finn and Jake had covered massive ground. Eventually the three would stumble on a well. The simple well seemed like the only thing they had found the whole time when adventuring this place. Naruto really wanted something to happen. Get some water from that well. Do you two want me to refill your containers? Naruto would look to his fellow blonde and would hand him his container. Thanks, Finn. As Finn would walk off, Jake had turned to Naruto. Do you think anything is gonna happen on this trip? It seems like even starting this morning we have been out for hours. And not one monster, danger, or even a bear, for crying out loud. The blonde would sigh and stretch, with his magic friend looking bored as all hell. Now that Naruto thought about it, with how much nothing had happened, he felt like they were in the wrong place. Either that or something was just waiting to happen. A scream would come from where Finn had ran to get water from. The two would quickly look at each other and run off. They would stumble upon Finn fighting some gnomes. Even that sentence was confusing and weird for the older blonde. Naruto still hadn't gotten used to this place. Jake and Naruto would rush to help Finn, the whiskered boy charging his black chakra into his palm. As the energy in him began to shift, he started to let the chakra flow into his throat. Thoughts in his head would ring out. Fire style. Fire bullets jutsu. The black flame similar to fireball jutsu Naruto had made when he was training, but smaller, and multiple fire bullets rang out, crashing into his friend's assailants. Taking action, Finn had kicked the stunned gnomes into the well. Jake had took action after grabbing the flying men and throwing them into the well that Finn had talked about. Finn would walk to Naruto somewhat confused. Wait, you're a ninja? Naruto would look surprised. You know what a ninja is? Finn and Jake would grin. Of course we know what ninja are, we were ninja for a short amount of time. Naruto would deadpan. Of course you were. How did you figure I was a ninja anyway? Finn would think a bit. Well, that wasn't normal fire magic. Jake would quickly butt in with a grin, excitement filling his eyes. Yeah, and how you moved wasn't like a knight or an assassin. Well, it was a mix of both. Like a stealthy ninja. Naruto would sheepishly scratch the back of his head. He hadn't known ninja had still been known after all this time. It seems legends had still kept on even without any chakra. But to last all the way to... That was crazy to think of. The group had finally remembered Finn's attackers and looked in the well. What surprised Naruto and Jake was that the well wasn't full of water. It was full of lava. and the gnomes were unable to move out in the semi-solid. So there wasn't any water. Finn would look down with his brother and friend, glad they had came when they did. Nope. These freaks tricked me into letting them out. A cry of "let us out" could be heard by the three as the gnomes wanted to attack once again. Heck no. Naruto would grab the water containers, seeing both were completely empty. Well, we better get to wherever the Enchiridion is. We don't got time to stay here for more than another 2 days without water. The three would begin to walk again, boredom eventually striking them after a few minutes. Naruto. Don't you have a jutsu or something that can help us find the Enchiridion? Naruto slapped himself in the head, having realized he had wasted so much time on. He was able to sense energy, for crying out loud. He could have also made this faster by making a giant bug with true wood release. Note: the release came from the Seven Tails because it had wood and bug release. For most of the releases I'm just gonna combine the old ones with some other things. I will list the here. If you don't want to hear them, skip ahead. Magnetic Sand Release. The highest form of sand ever recorded with the ability to use magnetic release, as well as Hell Flames. Fire formed as black flames with streak of red, similar to the two tails fire flowing through it. Tsunami Release. Basically more powerful water that has the ability to change and shift currents with ease, as well as control over temperature, allowing him to boast his power. Tar Release. Black magma that is able to absorb chakra. Seismic Release. Control over sonic waves. Acid Release. Self-explanatory. True Wood Release. Went over this. Octo-Rai Release. Justsu control over ink octopus and rhinos. Those are all the tail beast releases he can use. I put them here cause I forgot to explain them. Naruto gathered up his senses, looking for extra energies in the area. Presence stretched over the large forest and eventually stretching out further. The blonde would get a hold back on his energy, remembering what he had been searching for. The book was clearly marked. It had many energies running through it. Surprisingly, one had been Sage Chakra. Found it. Jake and Finn would grin at their friend. Both finally ready to get this over with. Well, let's go. Naruto had begun to run past the two, seemingly going in a random direction. His two friends were surprised at his speeds as they looked to each other. A ninja. Definitely a ninja. Finn hopped on Jake with the yellow dog stretching out, making his body and legs long to run behind Naruto, who was going at almost his top speed. Eventually the three had made their way up a tower, which was where Naruto said the Enchiridion was. The three crept quietly in, with Finn pulling out his golden blade, having half expecting something to suddenly jump out at him. Jake in response stretched his arm, making a bigger fist for himself. Naruto had slightly readied his chakra, causing his eyes to turn black with red slits in them. The blonde would begin to concentrate on his chakra. The black energy would flow through his body. As it built up, it would erupt from his body, forming a cloak around him. Naruto sprouted one chakra tail out of the cloak as its black chakra began to fully cover him, making him more fox-like as the shroud grew chakra ears and made his whiskers more pronounced. Energies of the place had made Naruto on alert. More so than his friends. Sure, there was the Enchiridion, which had all types of energies. But the energy in the temple, it was that same stuff that had been corrupting Sage Chakra. Focusing his fox eyes, he could see the green energy flow through the temple. Even in its tired state, energy like this was on par with his chakra and Finn's energy in its potency. To see something that has more potently than his chakra, though, it was rare. But whoever had this energy seemed to have been gone for a while. Which also made him wonder what that person's energy was really like. Naruto crouched as he saw something absorbing the green energy around him and his friends. Finn. Jake. Get ready. The brothers would brace themselves for whatever came at them. The air shifted a bit as what could only be described as a mangled monster limped into the three's sight. It was a sight to see. A heart-like monster using what would be arteries as arms. And even with that, the monster had no way of seeing. It was like the thing could still sense them somehow. Probably with the green energy coming directly off of it. The most of green had clouded some vision as the power would come off of the monster. Right now that thing was high-tuning, maybe even my guy. With his own level he was probably high-tuning. even with his semi-understanding of his new chakra. Even though he had more powerful jutsu, that didn't make a difference with how the gap was between a Chunin and a Jonin. With his less understanding of this form, he was probably Kaguya level in this state, maybe higher. It wouldn't do any good if he wasn't able to control the power. Maybe he could end the thing in one strike. That was the best option for now. One quick full-powered strike. Finn. Without hearing his fellow blonde, the younger boy grabbed his golden sword and ran at the monster. Naruto would scowl seeing his fellow blonde was already directly in front of the mangled heart thing. The boy was directly in front of the monster's swing of power. The blonde could clearly see the green energy in the arm of the thing. Before the monster could attack, Jake had spun and stretched around Finn to get him out the way. Naruto would grit as the heart thing had redirected itself at Jake. Jake would stretch his fist and send it into the monster. He expecting the thing to be blow back. He, the yellow dog, expecting at least a twitch. But nothing came from the attack. The behemoth of a monster just stood there seemingly staring at the magic hound. Shit. The sudden word was the mark of an attack. As soon as it was uttered, an arm of arteries completely slammed into Jake, sending him far into the wall. Naruto acted almost as quickly, running into the heart, sending it back. The bare-bones attack was not able to completely destroy the monster. But with this being his only way to attack the thing, it seemed like he was gonna need help. Finn was directly behind the heart, who was facing his fellow blonde. Both boys stared it down. The air shifted once more as the two pretenses of Finn and Naruto started to consume the heart's presence. Naruto screamed out. Now, the two rushed to attack the heart once more, only now both of them at the same time. Naruto's makeshift chakra claws cleaved through as much as they could. Meeting in the middle of the monster were the two attacks of a golden blade and charred black chakra. The two blondes kept pushing through as the monster was completely torn apart. An hour later, the three had left the weird place. As even for it shouldn't have been like that. Who knows what they could have seen if they stayed a bit longer. Naruto and Jake would be purling of Finn as he walked and looked into the Enkai written. The knowledge in the book was surprising. It had to be some sort of storage magic in it, as it seemed as if the pages were endless. It held more knowledge than everything Naruto had studied combined. And then some more on top of that. As the whiskered boy's fellow blonde flipped through the pages, he could feel the sage chakra in the book grow. This seemed to interest Naruto a bit, with only him sensing the power that was constantly fluctuating. "Hey Finn. Could I hold the book?" Naruto asked quickly, still feeling the changing energies. Finn would smile. "Well, we did get the book together. You're as a righteous hero as me." Naruto would grin as Finn handed him the book. As his friends watched him endlessly move the pages to a specific spot, they all stopped and awed. As Naruto turned to the last page, they saw what could only be described as chains made from black ink with words unknown to Jake and Finn behind it. "What's that?" Jake asked in awe. "It's something from the world of ninja." The blonde felt the book closely, looking at the seals on it. As he let his chakra flow into it, the ink-made chains evaporated. This would bring out a shinobi scroll the size of a summoning scroll out and on the floor as the pages of the Enkai written disappeared. Presumably connected to the scroll. As the scroll fell, it opened quickly. After 4 seconds, the scroll fully unraveled. The scroll had multiple viable seals on the inside. It seemed as if the relic of the past was almost an absent hope for shinobi to come back. Finn, Jake and Naruto stared at the scroll, only for the seals on it to glow and sprout out a note: a shinobi pouch, some scrolls, and what could only be a shinobi headband with the kanji for Black Fox on it. The whiskered boy looked in at the items. He hadn't thought anything survived from his time. Hell, he lost his shinobi gear before he died, so he really was limited to hand-to-hand combat. Which he was good at, but he also liked to use an axe, sometimes a sword. Hell, even a bow staff would do. Naruto would grab the note and look at it closely, beginning to read it out loud. "Naruto, if you are reading this, I not only am gone now, but you also have awoken from your death-like state. With this scroll I am giving you ninja gear that will help you, which I sealed in a book with sage chakra for time being. The pouch is a basic sealing jutsu pouch. It has infinite space for anything. Next is the scrolls. One holds the Kyubukiri no Bochosa Materda and some kuni and a book on a jutsu to help you make more kuni and ninja tools. Don't worry, as long as you have trained to use your new chakra, I am sure you will be able to use the jutsu. In the second scroll are things to help you learn seals, such as a book on the art of seals, inked directly from the 8 tales that I had saved for a while, and a book to help with your writing. After this is a scroll on a fighting style especially made for you. A mix of Madara's Kurama's Toad Sage and finally my fighting style. This will help you to be completely unpredictable as you always have been. But now even more dangerous. I have already sensed in the future you will have enemies that will transcend time and space. And am afraid an anniversary that emerged only a few years after your passing will be your first to defeat. Beware of the Lich. Yours truly, Hagoromo. A tear would fall down Naruto's face, accenting his cheek as he was now on the ground staring at the note. His friends had sat beside him comforting him. The blonde closed his eyes thinking on the past a bit. After he had lost the shinobi world, Hagoromo was like a father to him. The old man technically was his father with how he was the reincarnation of his son. But still, Hagoromo was possibly the only one left he had after the tail beast had made themselves his chakra. And he knew it was a long shot to think that the man had still been alive. But Naruto graved the headband and put it on his forehead. The look was reminiscent of his past self. He looked the pouch and placed it on his side. Not traditional to a normal ninja, but it didn't matter much. It was time to get serious. Time skip. Naruto and Finn laid X on the floor doing nothing but being bored. The two bumped fist and then took a bite out of their favorite foods respectively. Chapter 3. Adventures of Relaxation. Naruto laid quietly on grass in front of the tree house. He sighed a bit, feeling bored as all hell. A week ago he probably would be training, but now what was even the point? On his Finn's and Jake's adventures he had been the weak link. Without any progression and control over his abilities, he wasn't really good for the brothers' more dangerous adventures, which was what the two were currently out doing. And he also found himself unable to use Tailed Cloak or Sage Mode. For some reason he has been having some sort of mental block. He didn't know what had put it in place or even how to get past it. The blonde sighed once more and looked in front of himself, expecting some answer to just fall out the sky. Or for something to give him an idea. PB probably would know what to do. She has some ideas. Hell, she made the compound that helped bring me back to life. Naruto blinked then slapped his forehead. The whiskered boy realized he could have just asked the Candy Kingdom monarch the whole time. Sure, they don't talk much, but it would be nice to talk to someone. Who better than the best scientist in U? Naruto jumped up and quickly ran to the Candy Kingdom. As he walked in unannounced, most people stared at him. Sure, whenever he went here he traveled with Finn and Jake, but seriously, was he really that interesting? The stares didn't remind him of the glares he used to get. These looks were more of wonder and interest, while in the past he got anger and hate. The whiskered boy kept walking through, somewhat ignoring the citizens. As he moved he focused on his chakra, trying to make it flow out a bit. But nothing. He sensed his black chakra in him. The very chakra that had evolved from his red tail beast chakra. Hell, he sensed everything in the massive place. But he wasn't able to control any of his power. A sudden scream could be heard from above the kingdom. Looking up, Naruto only saw the Ice King flying off with PB in hand. The sounds of terror filled the kingdom. Most knowing not what to do in the situation, even though it seemed to happen every day. Sometimes he thought PB had just made their kingdom like that on purpose. The blonde didn't know how right he was. Terror would keep growing and the whiskered boy didn't have any time to deal with the pink-haired girl's people or to get Finn. Blue Man really was annoying sometimes. He never really saw him take a princess before though. Naruto really only had stories from Finn and Jake to go by. He was sure the old man wasn't that bad. Probably just gone mad from the magic flowing off of the crown he wore. Naruto sighed, quickly jumping from the ground onto a building to get a better view. What he saw was the bearded man flying away with a glint in his eyes. As he flew to his castle, the very Candy Kingdom felt cold. As cold as any ice. Made from jutsu. Or magic. The blonde would stare back to the citizens, then to the distance where PB had been taken. Naruto quickly jumped to the entrance, hearing the candy people get antsy. It seemed that they felt helpless. From what the whiskered boy make out, he heard most say Finn would save her. Finn was currently doing something. He didn't know what. but it had to be important. Naruto would take a deep breath while staring down. Then he jumped away in the direction of his friend. He followed the feeling of the ice magic and the cold air. Naruto quietly placed himself on the side of the Ice King's castle. The boy took a breath sharply with a grin, feeling like a shinobi again. Naruto looked at the beat ranch of the mountain-like home, his eyes scanning over the inside. The man's home seemed to have had a man cave look to it. The place had a simple bed on the side of the room, almost as cluttered as Finn's bed. Next to that was a box of random things. All over the room were penguins who seemed to be doing whatever. He also had sensed faint energy coming from one. It was immense and cleverly hidden at the same time, and somewhat confusing. Like everything he knew. On the other side of the room was the pink-haired girl he had been looking for. The blonde hopped in the room, quickly moving himself to where girl was. "Hey PB," Naruto said quietly while pulling out a kuni from his pouch and cutting through the ice bars. "Oh. Hey Naruto." The girl seemed to blush while near the blonde. This would go unseen by said blonde, who was focusing on making sure the Ice King was nowhere to be seen. Well, that was easier than expected. "Come on, let's get out of here before." Mid-sentence the blonde would be blown back, quickly crashing through multiple mountains made of ice. Naruto would cough a bit and look up at his new assailant. "Damn, you pack a punch." Compensating for something, you frozen like mist had poured from the holes Naruto had landed through. A darkened figure began to peer through the icy mist. Ice King would blast the mist away with an evil laugh, staring intently at Naruto. "Man, I just had to run my big mouth." "Yes, you just had to. Young boy, you would have been sage if you had just stayed quiet." The blonde would grit his teeth as he tried to get up, his bones snapping back in place, healing from his black chakra. Whiskered boy stared closely at his new enemy as he thought to himself, "Damn it. If he just stayed distracted." There wasn't much he could do in this state. He could barely use chakra to make clones. Fuck this block. Why couldn't I just have been fine? What's holding me back? Naruto's musings would be readily stopped as shards made from ice raged at him. The boy quickly jumped out the way, looking at the same spikes which had completely destroyed the ice mountain he had been standing on not too long ago. "Can't you take a chill pill, old man? Can't you just die?" Another assortment of object made of ice would be sent towards Naruto. Once again the blonde had dodged to another mountain, unable to do a counterattack. "Whenever I up and grab a princess, you idiots have to try and stop me. It's not fair." The Ice King whined, then pointed at Naruto. "You, that other human, and that magic dog. You all get in my way. But now it's over for one of you. You seemed less trained than Finn. Easier to kill, especially with no one to protect you. Shut up." "Oh. Did I strike a nerve?" The King of Ice would laugh once more as he used his magic to try and freeze Naruto. The ice traveled along his arm as the blonde's arm was fully covered in the element of the new world. Naruto would cry out after his arm had been fully covered. Looking the frozen limb, he didn't have enough control to melt the ice or enough to break out. "You all just get in my way. It's time to end one of you. And I will finally have a princess." Naruto began to remember the reason he was here in the first place. "If you even touch her, ill." Ice King would laugh once more. The laugh could make anyone close shiver. "Whether it be with anger or fear. You will do what? Kill me. You're the weakest link on your team. Can't even seem to control your powers." This would make Naruto sweat drop. How would this guy even know that? "Have you been watching us?" The heart-frozen man would turn away, ignoring the question. "Anyway. See you never, newbie." The Ice King would send one more blast of ice into Naruto, fully freezing him. As the man was going to walk away, he felt the air shift. It was surprisingly warm in his kingdom of ice and snow. That didn't make any sense to the man. How could something be this warm? No, how could something be putting off this much heat in a place like this? Ice King turned back to the figure of Naruto. The blonde had been hunched over, his fist unclenched as his body seemed to be unharmed. The boy would twitch a bit as black swirling energy started to spread from his stomach to his whole body. The reminiscent foxtail in ears appeared on the boy. It was only now that Ice King started to notice the ice that invaded him was rapidly melting. And the ice he used was some of the most powerful he had ever made. There was no way anyone could just melt it. Naruto twitched once more, his head flinging up as his headband fell to his neck. The blonde had no pupils, with his iris being blood red in color. Two more energy tails had sprouted from the boy, completely destroying the ice as they formed. The Ice King would chuckle. I beat you once, I can do it again. The Ice King sent a spike of ice as big as one of his mountains at Naruto. As fast as it had been thrown, it had been stopped. The blonde's arm had been held out, with the energy stretching from it, forming a giant hand and grasping the spike. The spike fully evaporated, leaving the Ice King a bit more cautious. Sure, he melted out of some higher level ice. But to stop one of my fully formed ice mountains, the bearded man's voice would crack. That's just impossible. The words that were uttered were the last as the raging power from Naruto had made itself known. It seemed that the boy would pounce at any moment. But when no one knew, and the Naruto moved in an instant, appearing in front of Ice King in a blink of an eye, the boy would punch the king into the mountain where it all started. The old man loddered on the ground, clutching his arm, only being cushioned by his own ice. Wait. I didn't mean it. Just take the princess and go. The whiskered boy started to walk slowly up the mountain, only holding on by the quickly melting ice he made contact with. The Ice King was fairly afraid and confused. Finn never did this. What the hell was even happening? The hollow body of the boy crept closer to the man. Soon the boy was directly above him. Ice King tried to cover himself with his hands, only to be quickly grabbed by the neck. Naruto. Please don't. The blonde would look to the cage he had walked in, seeing his skin had already started to peel from his chakra as he looked at Princess Bubblegum. Naruto would drop the old man and fall with his chakra descending back inside him. Princess. What is he? The old man said sharply. Shut up. Ice King would look at the cage and would quickly unlock the door, letting the pink girl out. Princess. Please just take him out of here before he wakes up. I can't take another attack right now. The girl would sigh at the old man, somewhat realizing what Naruto had already found out. The old man wasn't evil. Well, maybe he was. He was just crazy as well. Just a bit. It somewhat made her feel bad for the man. But what she really wanted to know is what happened to Naruto. Naruto woke up on a hospital bed, half expecting the vivid memories he had to be a dream. Looking closer, the boy realized it wasn't a dream. Thankfully enough, the princess was there healing him. Or was she testing him? He couldn't tell. As he tried to sit up, a sharp pain would ring through the blonde's whole body. The sudden pain only subsiding when the whiskered boy stopped trying to get up. You really should stop trying to get up. Naruto would look to the girl as she kept writing on a clipboard. What happened? The princess would look towards the blonde boy, almost as if she expected him not to remember what happened. This reminded Naruto of when he had first used 4 taels worth of Kurama's chakra. Did I hurt anyone? PB would give a soft smile, hiding the sadness she had when he had asked the question. No. Well, you did rough up the Ice King. But he is used to it. Naruto would look away. I could have killed him. The pink-haired girl seemingly ignored what the boy had said. It wasn't your fault. I'm gonna run some tests on you and you're unstable. In thought, the girl would stand up. What did you call it? The blonde would slightly chuckle. Chakra. It's chakra. PB would give a small smile, somewhat happy the boy was already looking up. Time skip. Naruto was sitting on the bed, hooked up to many machines. He didn't know what they did or what PB had been doing. It had to be important. Maybe he would get some answers. The blonde decided to focus on his senses. The smell of the room wasn't any different to the whole kingdom. It smelled as sweetly sickening to everything else. No offense to PB, but the place was just a bit too sweet for his liking. Suddenly the door would open to Naruto's room. The pink-haired girl on the boy's mind would walk in. So what did your test tell you? The girl would sigh as she sat next to Naruto. She seemed confused by what she had found. Well, Naruto, I couldn't find anything really wrong with you. Your chakra pool is the same level from when you revived, even when you are suppressing it. I think you just need a break. You have been trying hard to get control over the power you once had and you are overstressing yourself. And with what I found, I can definitely say that the chakra you use isn't just connected to you like your chakra once was. The chakra is you. Naruto would look up confused at what the girl had said. That wouldn't be possible, he wasn't made out of chakra. How could he? Is you're a bit confused? The princess said quickly, shutting down the blonde's thoughts. Let me explain. You know the chakra beast you talked to me about? Naruto would nod, still a bit confused. Well, while you aren't like that, your chakra is like a second consciousness. But because you do not have a chakra body, you aren't fully in tune with both halves of yourself. Because your body hasn't yet caught up, allowing your second self to take your emotions tenfold. I found this severely affects your control. This could mean the reason you haven't been able to use your chakra is mainly because of something that had happened that you weren't able to fully process. A secondary problem is you trying to use your new chakra like you did with your old one. Like a tool instead of an extension of yourself. But I'm sure you already knew that. Naruto would think for a bit. Do you know how I could fix it? The pink-haired girl would sigh. Well, the way I see it. You could face it head on. Relax yourself, or you could find some way to have fun. Well, speaking of fun, do you want to hang out? Maybe. Naruto gave a fake grin, with PB responding with a sad smile. Sure. We don't talk much anyway. How about tomorrow? The boy's grin would widen as he heard what his friend had said. Okay. See you then. The boy got up, realizing he wasn't in his normal clothes. Naruto would look at himself, confused a bit. Hey. Blushing a bit, the blonde would look back to PB. Where is my clothes? The pink-haired girl would give a jiggle as she left the room. Hey, wait. PB. Where's my clothes? The boy would stare at the closed door with one thought as he saw the pink hair in his head. Girls are complicated. Naruto would open the window and jump out, making his way to the treehouse to find a change of clothes. After the blonde changed, he walked outside, staring closely at the sky. He thought more on what PB had said as he felt the crest on his headband. She said he hadn't fully processed something. That didn't make much sense. He felt fine. Putting this in the back of his head, he began to clutch his headband. But maybe he could figure that out if he still had them. Naruto would shake his head quickly and look back up at the sky. Maybe it was for the best he didn't think like that. The bubblegum-haired girl said fun would help. So why doesn't he see if Finn and Jake came back? Maybe they could go on a simple adventure instead of a dangerous one. The blonde placed his headband back on his head and kept staring at the sky. Unfortunately, whoever was in the sky didn't seem to like the blonde. A few letters away was a knife that fell from the cloudy sky. The boy was slightly confused as another knife had fell not too far from the first one. What was going on? The boy thought. Then one was about to fall directly on his head. The boy would catch it quick and jump up and back. What the hell is going on? As Naruto said this and looked up, he could see more knives in the sky glowing quickly down. It wasn't a small amount either. The blonde started to dance around the knives, every single one that came at him missing. The whispered boy made his way inside the treehouse with a confused and surprised. The whispered boy made his way inside the treehouse with a confused and surprised look. It fucking rains knives, he said sharply. Naruto climbed upstairs with no thought and sat near Finn and Jake. So it rains knives. Finn would nod, seemingly mad about staying inside. The two blondes looked at Jake as he began to hum. Jake, why are you humming? Aren't you mad about the knife rain? The alone dog would laugh a bit. Then he would seemingly think on what to say. Well, I'm not mad because I have no reason to be. We can still have fun without imaginations. Finn would raise his eyebrow, looking at his friend questioningly. Yeah, right. Jake would respond just as quick. No dude, I'm being serious. Finn would cross his arms, not noticing his fellow blonde watching them closely. That's spunk, man. Ain't no way using your imagination is fun. Jake would jump up with a grin. I'll show ya. The dog would hope on the table in front of them, pretending the floor had been replaced with lava, while his brother would double down on his beliefs. No dude, imagination is for wads who can't accept reality. After suing, the Struck had scarcely jumped to the stove while looking horrified. Naruto also had noticed a wave of energy that had come off of Jake. The whiskered blonde didn't say anything, just expecting it to be nothing. Guys. Hot lava. It's everywhere. We aren't playing your games, Jake. Jake would look worriedly at the floor as his brother gave his remark. No. I'm serious. The treehouse must be cursed or something. Finn would stand on the couch as Naruto still watched the two brothers. No, you're not. I'll prove it. Watch as I master reality. Naruto would look towards Finn as he thought a bit. Finn. I don't think that's a good idea. Finn would look to Naruto disappointedly. Come on man, no you too. You know he's just making it up. Watch. Before the blonde could stop his friend, the boy put his foot on the floor. Unexpected to Finn, he had felt a heat and burning sensation of lava on his foot. The boy quickly jumped to the table, surprised at the hot floor. The blonde would look to Naruto, then to the floor, then to Jake. What was that? The yellow dog would shrug as Naruto touched the floor. I was just messing around. Then everything got intense. Well, it seems my chakra naturally repels your imagination thing. But that's not gonna work for anyone else but me. Finn would think a bit, trying to figure out what to do as Naruto stood up. Well, let's get out of here before we lose things. Go jump on. The boy would jump on his brother's back as the dog used his powers to stretch to a different part of the tree house. Naruto looked closely at the two, confused a bit. Seems like they gonna be a while. Should I help out? Could seem like fun. And it's something to do. Naruto would throw his kuni to the ceiling. Still connecting it to his hand was ninja wire that allowed the boy to fling himself to his friends. So what's the plan? Finn and Jake would jump, surprised by the blonde. Wow. We thought you would sit this one out. The boy would quickly shake his head. I've already been sitting out on most of the adventures you two do. Wouldn't be good to sit out on any more. The brothers would grin. Jake would then jump up. Well, me and Finn was gonna turn my imagination off with a machine I had imagined. Naruto would sweet drop. That didn't sound too good to the blonde. What if something went wrong with the fake machine? Or what if when they turned it off they couldn't turn it back on? Wait, I don't think that's a good idea. Finn would perk up to his friend, somewhat confused. What do you mean? Naruto would put his hand to his chin and thought. He wasn't the smartest in the academy, but maybe he could explain this in a simple way. He wasn't much of a dunce anymore either. Well, turning his imagination off would make all of the constructs disappear and there would be no way to get them back. Meaning the machine wouldn't be there after. And turning his imagination off would be like taking a part of him away. Finn would copy his fellow blonde's thinking pose. Well, if that's the case, maybe we could train Jake to control it. So he could use it, but it wouldn't have any bad effects. The whiskered boy would grin. Now you're talking. The two blondes would turn to Jake. Jake, do you think you could make a force field around the tree house? Well, I'll try. The yellow dog would put his hands on his head and think on it a bit. After a few seconds, Jake would say he was done. When the three looked outside, it was still raining knives, but none were able to hit the tree house. The three could still hear the thuds of the knives, smell the wet metal, and see the cloudy sky. But not a single knife touched the tree house. This would get a grin from Naruto, which would infect his two friends as they went to the ground. The older blonde would take the time to train Jake. He gave Finn some basic sword training as well. And because he couldn't use his chakra, he had begun to do some strength training and weapon training. This would at least allow the boy to help his friends. The three sat down looking at the open sky after their hard work. The friends would smile at each other. Damn. That was crazy training. Finn would turn to Naruto with a goofy grin. The blonde would in turn give the boy a smile. With that kind of training, I already feel stronger. Why don't we do this every day? Naruto would look up at the sky with Finn and Jake looking at him closely. I'm sure Jake can tell you. My body needs some rest. Naruto would lay back and fall asleep, his chakra fueling his body in rest. Then Finn would turn to Jake, expecting a quick response from his brother. Well, Finn, your body always needs time to rest. It's different for everyone. But most people need that time so their body can heal itself. The boy would look back with a look of understanding. Okay. I get it. Time skip. Naruto woke up on the grasslands under the tree house. As he stared at the sky, he felt the grassy floor. Damn, I really needed that. The shinobi would jump up to his feet. As he stood there, he took a deep breath. Naruto tried to take in everything around him. It was another day anew. It's been 2 months since he had first revived. Hell, to think that's how long it had been since he first got here. Was kinda crazy. The blonde quickly yawned. He was sure he had to do something today. He didn't fully remember what. But hey, he had some time, he'd figure it out after breakfast. Naruto went inside with a yawn, climbing up the tree like he had done so many times before. Once more he climbed up to Jake making something for breakfast with Finn intentionally watching. What's he making this time? Naruto said while placing himself next to his friend. The whiskered boy's fellow blonde looked at him with a grin. He's making his famous bacon pancakes. Both would look back to Jake, who was humming a tune while making the food. This eventually bored Naruto. The blonde began to think on what he had to do today. It was something simple, he was sure of it. But what exactly could it be? A few more seconds of thinking and Naruto had figured it out. That's right, PB wanted to do something fun today. Well, more like I did and I made her promise. Finn perked up hearing the name that Naruto called Princess Bubblegum. If he had still liked the girl, he probably would have been jealous. But his friend kinda helped him see how flawed it was to like someone who wouldn't give it back. Who was he kidding? Who knows where he would be if his friend hadn't looked out for him. Now him and Jake tease his fellow blonde about the two girls he fails to see have affection for him. He didn't know how Naruto didn't see it though. And now the princess promised to go on a would-be date with him. If Jake heeded this, Finn was sure that he would get to teasing Naruto. With no response from the boy either. Well, seems like you have something to do today. Me and Jake didn't really have any adventures plans out, so we were hoping to play some games on BMO. Naruto would look to the two. A smile would soon be placed on the blind's face when he looked up to the ceiling. The boy began to think on the friends he had made so far. Finn, Jake, PB, Marceline, and BMO. The two girls he hadn't really talked to much. Well, more so PB. Him and Marceline were two pranksters, so it was easy for them to click. But PB. He hadn't talked to her much besides yesterday. Hell, that was probably the only time he had talked to her. Hopefully he could get his mind off of not being able to use his chakra. Naruto would look to Finn, who had just been staring at him, seemingly waiting for his friend to say something. Well, I'm sure I'll be back in time to beat both of you in your own game. Jake finally came over with the food after the boy had said this. You're going somewhere, Naruto? Finn would give a grin to Jake. Oh. You're going to see PB, aren't you? This would make the blonde boy raise his eyebrow. How had the dog known? Couldn't be that obvious. How did? The yellow dog would laugh. Well, it's obvious. Young love is fun to observe. Naruto would give his friend a deadpan and would turn to Finn. He does know I'm like 1,000 years old, right? The boy's fellow blonde would give a quick shrug, not giving too much attention to what Naruto had said. Jake would give Naruto snap, getting his attention. The dog took some time to think before saying anything and answered after a minute. Well, you may be 1,000. Or whatever. But you're not that mature. You've been treated as 17. So you act that way. Probably some way to cope too. Just like Finn's fear ghost thing inside his stomach. The blonde would give a confused look, then turn to Finn, who just gave a sheepish laugh. Man, he must have missed something. Since when did Finn have a fear ghost? Anyway. Eat up. You're gonna need energy if you're going to be winning the heart of the princess. Naruto would quickly turn to Jake, still somewhat confused. He wasn't going on a date or anything. Why would he be trying to get PB to like him? What do you mean? It's not like I'm going on a date. Jake would give a quick sigh, seeing his friend didn't understand a bit. For someone who is meant to see underneath the underneath. You sure aren't good at figure stuff out. The blonde would give a shrug to his friend. He wasn't the sneaky type of ninja back then anyway. Hell, he wore orange, for crying out loud. Sure, it was his favorite color, but looking back, it was practically saying, hey, I'm here. Come kill me. I'm trying to stand out and get myself killed. What was he thinking back then? And thinking on if more. How was he able to outrun Ambu? That really didn't make sense. He was awesome, but Ambu. Maybe some things just wasn't meant to be figured out. Naruto took a bite out of some of the food Jake had placed in front of him, not noticing his friends were placing bets for his love life. Time skip. The whiskered boy had already started walking to the Candy Kingdom to have what could only be seen as a play date. As the blonde walked, a gust had pushed him to the side. When Naruto looked up, he was met with an inviting smile from a familiar face. Said face belonged to the black-haired vampire who was just as much of a prankster as him. "Hey Marcy. How are you?" The girl would giggle as she quickly looked down at him. "Well, I'm good. Even if I haven't seen my favorite blonde in a while. I thought you were adventuring with Finn and Jake," the girl said while somewhat confused. Naruto stood up and dusted himself off as Marceline stared at him with a mischievous grin. "Well, I am. But I haven't been on some adventures cause I'm not able to use my energy much right now. But I'm figuring that out." The black-haired girl would float with Naruto as he walked. "Well, maybe we could prank someone to get your mind off of it. Actually, I'm hanging out with PB. She said something about relaxation or whatever." The black-haired girl would stop for a bit. After pausing, she started to float with Naruto again. "Well, maybe we could hang out sometime." Naruto would turn to his friend with a smile. The boy was still unknowing to what the girl meant. "Sure." As he said this, the cogs in his mind began to move. Maybe he could get the two to be friends again. That probably would be pushing his friendship with the two. But he didn't even have parts to the story. Maybe if the two just talked, they would be friends again. "Actually, would you like to join me and the princess?" Marceline paused for a bit, unknowing in what to say. "Well, I don't want to intrude," she said quickly. Naruto would give a smile. "I'm sure it's fine." The black-haired girl had given a small smile. She began to think to herself before floating beside the blonde once more. "Well, I guess I wasn't doing anything anyway. Why are you hanging out at night, though?" Naruto would turn to talk to his friend, happy that she had decided to come along. "Well, I'm pretty sure she said for us to hang out at night cause she has so much to do. This was kinda something for both of us to relax, I think. She looked like she needed a break." Marceline would giggle and would float on her back, relaxing. "I talked about myself. So what has the vampire queen been up to?" Said queen had given another mischievous laugh, looking at her friend. "Well, your favorite black-haired vampire has been messing with your roommates. Other than that, I haven't been doing too much." The whiskers boy would laugh, interested in the girl's pranks. "What did you do to them?" The girl would float normally. "Well, I convinced Finn he was my servant for a while. He really freaked at most things though. It was funny until he figured out I was just messing with him." The blonde laughed a bit at this as the two finally arrived at the Candy Kingdom. "Hey, how about we race to the castle?" Naruto would give a quick grin as he said this. Marceline would respond with a grin of her own, causing both to stare forward. Naruto pulled two kunai with chains on them from his bag. The boy swung the two weapons in a circle, waiting for a signal of some sort. Suddenly the two nodded and rushed into the Candy Kingdom. Naruto quickly sent out his kunai into a wall, swinging himself up, as his friend had transformed, flying fast towards the castle. The blonde got up quickly on a building, running after Marceline. The boy then jumped down and sent both his kunai out. As the blades landed on their marks, the blonde used most of his might to slingshot himself next to Marceline. "Hey Marcy." The girl would look beside her, laughing a bit. "Never expected you to catch up. You know, without your ninja abilities." Naruto would give a quick laugh. "Well, I was known as the wild card of ninja." The boy sent his kunai out once more, pulling himself ahead of the vampire girl. The blonde then landed on the ledge of the castle, waiting for his friend to catch up. Said girl had turned to normal and floated next to her friend. Naruto jumped down and made his way inside of the princess's lab. "PB. You in here?" A quick answer came from behind the door. "Yes. I'll be right there." The pink-haired girl had come in with a pink jacket and her hair tied above her crown. She walked over with a smile until she got in front of the two. "Hey, Marceline. I'm Naruto. Why is she here?" Said boy looked sheepish as he tried to stray away from the pink-haired girl's gaze. "Well, I thought about it. And a trio is fun, right? Besides, she found me on my way over here, thought would be a fun idea." The princess would sigh as she looked at the blonde. "Okay. I guess. What were we gonna do again?" Marceline and PB directed their attention to Naruto as he looked confused. Wait, what do you mean? I thought you were gonna decide. Naruto said confusedly. So you don't know what we were going to do? The boy looked at the two sheepishly. Well, actually, each of us can do two things. So it's fair. So three things for each person. Marceline would grin at the boy. Well, I can think of one thing. Said boy turned to the girl. What's that? The black-haired girl quickly turned away with a blush. Nothing. While the comment went over Naruto's head, it didn't go over the pinket's head. As quickly as she began to think on it, she let go as quickly. Well, ladies first, said Naruto, still not knowing what he wanted to do. This would cause the two girls to look at each other for a second and look away. The silence would only be filled with Marceline saying that Princess Hair can go first. Well, I guess I do have some things I would like to do. The girl would lead the two inside her lab. On the big area were many vials and chemicals that were very much scattered around. The pink-haired girl would put on a lab coat and grab some goggles. She would hand them eyewear to the two who had been watching her. They would take the goggles quickly and put them on. I'm going to need your help to recreate the compound that had bring Naruto back to life. The blonde would raise an eyebrow. But I thought that one would have created zombies. The girl would smile as a result. While in that form, yes. But with you two, I'm sure I will be able to use it how it was meant to be. Naruto would not think to himself a bit. Wasn't it also Finn's energy that had made the compound work? Probably not. The blonde would be stopped as Princess Bubblegum directed him to get her chemicals. The boy quickly gathered up everything needed as Marceline just watched. Marceline, could you fly up and adjust the antenna? It's going to need to be hit with a lot of electricity for this to work. The black-haired girl would sigh. Yeah, I got it. The vampire jumped out the window and flew away. Naruto boredly leaned on the side as he watched his friend quickly do math on a whiteboard. Naruto, would you mind giving me a blood sample? She said, more focused on her work. Sure. The blonde quickly bit his finger like he would if he was to summon something. This enough. The girl didn't look back and kept doing her work. When she finally turned, it took a few seconds for an answer. Yeah. That should be good. The pink-haired girl went back to writing. Put it in that vial. The pinkette pointed to a stand that had many vials on the wall, going back to doing work. Naruto did what the girl had said and waited a bit. The silence was broken by an electrified Marcelline flying back in the room. I'm never doing that again. The girl floated over to Naruto looking a bit mad. You okay? The girl would nod slowly as her friend patted her back. This wouldn't go unnoticed by the princess as she finished her math. Okay, you two. We are almost done. We just have to put everything together. The two walked to the girl, watching as she quickly worked. She had already put everything together. After setting some stuff up, the girl electrified the compound and then waited for a reaction. The liquid in the test tube started to glow blue and then black. Then said liquid began to bubble. A grin would appear on the pink EDS face as she held up the compound and poured it on a candy corpse. The Katy man wasn't just revived but fully back to life. It wasn't a zombie like old Mr. Cream Puff. It was actually back. It worked. The princess said with a smile. She turned to the two who had been watching her, one with boredom, the other with interest. Naruto clapped for the girl. PB would rub the back of her head sheepishly. Marceline just shook and got the black tint of smoke off of herself. That was something, I guess. The Whiskers boy jabbed the black-haired girl in the arm. Rubbing her arm, she would look back to the pink-haired girl. I mean, it was great. The girl tried to smile when saying this but couldn't muster anything but a small twitch of her lip. The princess gave them a smile which caused the two to give a smile. Well, PB. What's next? Naruto said quickly. The girl began to think for a bit. Silence only being minimized by the sounds of beeps from the technology in the lab. Well, I did want to finish some old TV shows I had. Could be nice to watch with some friends. Short time skip. Naruto had fallen asleep on PB's couch. The boy was unmoving with his two friends sitting beside him. Both of the girls have placed their heads on his shoulders, taking the moment in as much as they could without waking the blonde. Marceline looked to the whiskered boy, trying to see if he was conscious. The black-haired girl waved her hand in front of his face. No reaction. Bonnie. The pink-haired girl shivered hearing the name her oldest friend had given her. The two used to be more than friends. But that hadn't been for hundreds of years. Why had she decided to come with Naruto? The pink-haired girl didn't know if she should answer. But seeing as the black-haired girl had probably known she was up, she would have asked again. Yes. A small silence came over the two, one waiting for the other to speak. You like him, don't you? No answer for a few seconds, the black-haired girl now being the one waiting for an answer. Why did it have to be hard to sit here? She knew she wouldn't have talked to the bubblegum-haired girl without a push. But to just stay still was hard for her. Finally an answer that stops the silence came in the voice of said pink-haired girl. I do. And I know you do too. Marceline wouldn't answer either, waiting for her old friend to speak first or thinking of something to say. Why did you decide to come with Naruto? Marceline took a tired breath, not knowing how to respond. If anything, she came because Naruto wanted her to. But it wasn't just that. If it was, she probably would have sabotaged the pink-haired girl. She decided to think on it for a minute, still not knowing what to say. She kept on thinking until Bonable had spoken again, stopping the short silence between them. Why did you decide to come here? Another short silence would surround the two, only being broken by the black-haired girl. Hell. I don't know. Marceline cried. The cute idiot brought me. I guess he wanted us to be friends again. The vampiric woman hesitated before continuing. A small part of me wanted it too. The pink-haired girl smiled and stopped the silence before it could begin. Capital I. Wanted it too. The two sat in silence once more, only noise being the snores coming from Naruto. Then why didn't you talk to me? We could have figured something out. I mean, two immortals can't figure out their relationship. Bonnie would look to the black-haired girl on the other side of the blonde. I was always busy. Busy. To the point where it was impossible for me to focus on anything but the kingdom. Hell, I still busy now. And I didn't even think I would have time to mess around with Naruto today. The girl would sigh boredly, with Marceline having a small smile. I'm sorry. The pink-cat would shake her head. It's not your fault. You think we could share the cute idiot? Well, it could work. The girls looked to each other and laughed a bit. It's more so if we are okay with being with each other again. The two would stare at the blonde of their shared attraction. Might as well give it some time. Don't want to freak him out. You know. The two grinned a bit, with the silence not being as unbearable as before. Should we wake him up? We still got to do what me and Naruto want. Or we could just stay here for a bit. Wouldn't matter much. The two smiled at each other as they laid their heads back on Naruto's shoulders. Chapter 4. Awaken. Naruto was outside in the grasslands, calming himself in his mind. He had been sick of not being able to use his powers. As the blonde went through multiple stages of Catus his father had left for him, he had been thinking on Sage mode. He wasn't able to use the chakra, but he was able to draw said Sage energy in. And he still gained the natural boost from Sage mode. The blonde stopped his Catus and stared around himself in dark. It was a cold night. To be honest, almost as cold as the Ice Kingdom. It was better than that place though. The Ice King apparently was scared of him now. That was confusing. He only remembered passing out after the guy had froze him. If anything, he thought the guy would have seen him as weak. The whiskered sat down looking up at the tree house. Man. It's a beautiful night. I should do something. Naruto thought as he calmed himself once more. The boy got in his toad sage sit and focused on his breathing. The familiar sage chakra had begun to flow around the boy as he thought to himself. Finjake and Marceline were singing together. Maybe I could do my own adventure. A small pause would surround the blonde boy as he opened his eyes. Why am I avoiding Bonnie and Marcy again? Naruto would think back to what had happened when he sold up that night. Flashback. The two girls had woke him up. The old shinobi was very much drowsy and confused when awake. What fully woke the boy up, however, was the fact the two cute girls. Going back to his thoughts, the boy had blushed at what he had said in his mind. The blonde would quickly shake his head, remembering the rest of the not-so-new memory. The two girls had kissed him. Sure. It was on his cheeks, but it was right when he woke up. Hell, when it happened he fully woke up. It came as a shock, cause after a few days he started having weird dreams that he really didn't want to talk about. Wasn't his type of thing. Sure, he was known to be the crazy knucklehead ninja back in the past. Hell, he went almost crazy after a few years to become the strongest. But anything to do with romance was basically a soft spot for the orange-clad boy. Even with immortality in more than 1,000 years, that one fact probably wouldn't change. And flashback. Which was the main reason he had been avoiding the two. Bonus was that he had learned Bonnie's actual name. He knew Princess Bubblegum was a title. But he didn't think they were close enough for that. That wasn't the worst part of this. In fact, there wasn't really a bad part at all for the blonde. He just didn't know how to react is all. And why would he? Sakura wasn't one to be like this. She chose Sasuke after all. He still never figured out how the two haunt together. And other than her, he never had any other feelings for anyone else. Naruto would jump up. It's still a good chunk of night. Might as well do something. Naruto would quickly put his hand on his chin and thought. Maybe an adventure. Not like I could face Marcy or Bonnie right now. But I don't really know where to go for an adventure. Maybe training would be better. Naruto would stretch. Much noise could be heard from his joints as he got ready. The blonde then reached into his shinobi pouch. As he grasped onto the familiar tool in his pocket dimensions, he would grin. The grin stretched Naruto's whisker marks as he started to take out a weapon. Slowly the boy had pulled out a sword that had looked like a giant blade attached to a hilt. The blade was thick itself and curved to the tip of the blade. On the lower bit of the blade was a chunk taken out of the blade in the shape of a half circle. To the top of the blade was a circle-shaped hole, unlike the half circle at the bottom. This blade was known as the Kubukiri no Bocho, or Executioner's Blade. A sword that could regenerate. Not to mention the blade was very powerful and there had only ever been one of it. So with a sword like this, not many other blades could match. Other than the other 6 of the 7 swords of the Hidden Mist. Naruto swung the sword around. It was a big heavy but nothing the boy couldn't get used to. The blonde went into his pouch once more and drew out the 6 other swords he had been thinking about. The blades had landed and dug into the ground with a clank. The blonde would grin as he remembered the blades' names. Hiramakari, Kabutauri, Nubari, Kinda, Shibuki, and Samehada. What great swords! And he planned to train with all of them as well as some other weapons. As Naruto started to train with the first blade, he felt himself getting used to the style of sword fighting. With every slash he had started to configure it into a new fighting style. Like a branch from the new one he had already gained. Naruto then started on the other swords, doing the same for them. He hadn't realized one of his swords were living though. That was a surprise for the blonde when Samehada started eating his chakra. Somehow the blade had ran away, making the blonde chase him. How could a shark sword with no arms, fins or tail just run away? Didn't make much sense. But here Naruto was chasing a sentient sword. When he finally caught the blade, he was in that dungeon where Finn Jaken himself found the Enchiridion. Why would the sword run here of all places? The blonde thought as he stared into the open gates. Naruto looked back to the treehouse, which was harder to see from here but still pretty easy for him. Then the whiskered boy looked back inside. I did say I wanted an adventure. Naruto put Samehada on his back as the blade created bandages around itself, concealing the blade. The whiskered boy walked inside as he looked around. The familiar forest part of the dungeon felt more inviting. For an adventure, this is pretty boring. Naruto's thoughts had been stopped by a Cyclops who had decided to rush at him. Naruto focused on his blade skills as he had held Samehada. The giant had no idea what would happen next. The blonde had quickly thrown out 3 chain kunai. The small daggers attached themselves to the body of the giant. It only took a moment for Naruto to send himself under the Cyclops and launch himself above it. With one swing, the blade the blonde used shred through the Cyclops as if it had been paper against a chainsaw. As Naruto landed, he crouched on his blade. The boy had a grin that stretched on both sides of his face. On most of his adventures he never felt like this. He had a rush like never before. His heart was racing more than ever before. Naruto decided to rush through the forest with Samehada by his side. The shark blade mimics the blonde's grin. Both of them felt the rush as they began cleaving through the dungeon, making sure to attack only those who decided to attack them. After a while, Naruto could be seen on top of the gate of the dungeon. A laugh would echo from the boy as he looked off in the distance. I haven't felt like that since. The smile that the blonde had would slowly fade. I haven't felt like this since I lost everyone. Naruto would pet the blade beside him as he kept staring down. Bonnie was right. He hadn't fully processed what happened. His chakra wasn't working cause he hasn't been being true to himself. I'm not human anymore. Am I, sensei? Silence would cover the boy and the blade beside him. The quiet was unbearable for him. So much had changed. He lost everyone. It didn't matter what way he had put it. They were gone. And he sealed himself in the grounds he wouldn't have to deal with the pain. He would never admit it to himself. He may have been Jake, Marceline, and Bonnibel, but he still was in pain. And he didn't know why. Naruto grabbed Samatarta and put it on his back as he stood up. Man, what am I saying? A small sigh came from Naruto as he looked back to the black sky. Only now it wasn't blank. It had been filled with a swirl of blue figures similar to souls or a ghost. The silence of the world was filled with sounds of fear and swarming souls. Well, seems like something always happens. I guess Finn and Jake are probably in the middle of this. Naruto sprinted down to the center of the commotion. In the middle of the battle as he thought was Finn and Marceline. But no Jake. The whispered boy landed beside his fellow blonde with confusion. What's going on, Finn? The boy started rambling to his friend in panic. The only audible words being Marceline, Dad, Souls, and Song. Man, things really go to shit sometimes. Naruto stared up at the figure who had been taking in massive amounts of souls. The humanoid giant had looked demonized with a bald round head with horns. The thing's mouth had been elongated up and down, making the figure more disgusting to look at. Around its neck were green pockets that looked like frog eggs, each one being filled with a soul. Naruto felt an urge to throw up a bit. Then he turned to Finn. Kind if I take a crack at it? The blonde looked a little worried when hearing this, but before he could say anything his whispered friend was already on the move. Naruto jumped up at the demon with the Kubukiri no Bocho on his side. The blonde swung the lanky sword to try and curve it into the monster. This only ended up angering the demon as it caught the sword. Really? Another small human that thinks he can defeat him? Well, it seems this isn't the same one from before. Hopefully Marceline didn't care about you. Soon Naruto felt numb as he felt his chakra leaving him. His life source almost being stripped from. Soon Naruto embraced the cold that he was feeling. The low heat feeling welcoming as if it was from his past. Suddenly the blonde was pulled into his mindscape, still being embraced and threatened by death itself. But the embrace was becoming easier to pull away from. As he fully grasped where he was, he questioned it a bit. Why was he here? There wasn't a tail beast in sight. His mindscape was empty. A black void of nothing. Well, almost nothing. As the blonde turned around, he could make out red eyes in the darkness. They didn't belong to a beast. It belonged to him. As the eyes got closer, more confusion covered the blonde. He looked right into the eyes of himself. An exact copy of himself. Besides the blood-red eyes reminiscent of Kurama. Unknown to the boy, his thoughts had been echoed from around his mindscape. The figure of himself made a growl as it started to circle Naruto. This doesn't make any sense, Naruto said quickly. I dealt with the dark version of myself before. I've dealt with those feelings. The boy turned to meet what he presumed was his dark feelings incarnate, having remembered his past with dealing with them in his training. So who? What are you? A raspy, unused voice would echo through the darkness. It was similar to Naruto's voice and tone, but nothing else. Capital I am you. The blue-eyed boy laughed a bit. Like I said. Who are you? The red-eyed boy growled and rushed at his blonde counterpart. A dance of battle ensured the two, both flowing through the same catus from their fighting style. The battle had no clear winner. Both attacked with ferocity and defended with ease. It was unknown who would come out on top until both landed a right jab into each other's faces, which would push them back. This is fucking stupid. Naruto landed on the blank ground with anger as he looked at his copy. Whatever you are. Fucking stop it. I'm dealing with a lot right now. So can you fuck off? The red eyes Naruto just gave a glare and got back into his stance. God damn it. Naruto quickly rushed in to attack the copy, going in with a high kick. The kick connected to a block as both felt more rage. Do you know what I feel? Naruto switched his legs, landing on his right and sending another kick into himself with his left. This one landed, pushing the red-eyed blonde back. I don't have them anymore. The blue-eyed blonde ran at the down clone. A punch would stop Naruto from running any further as the red-eyed boy was done being on the offensive. Don't you think I know that? I'm you, for crying out loud. The darker boy went to land a spinning kick which landed directly in the boy's gut. So why don't you just fucking listen? Before the darker Naruto could get away, the blue-eyed boy grabbed his leg and threw him away. Shut up, faker. You have no idea. You have no fucking idea of how I feel. So why don't you just get out of my head? A giant black fist rushed out of the darkness, pinning Naruto to the wall. Slowly the red-eyed Naruto walked out of the shadows, being connected to the arm and hand. Don't you think I know? For the last time. I'm you. The pain. The strife. The fear of being alone. Of losing everything. Why don't you listen for a change? Naruto would widen his eyes, finally staring deep into his own eyes. It wasn't a trick. It was really him. No one else had those eyes. Not since he became the last shinobi. You aren't lying. You're me. The two stared at each other for some time until both of them were suddenly in front of one another. How? Remember what Bonnie said. Both went back to the memory of what the pink had made clear to them. His body and soul weren't fully adjusted to each other, as well as him not fully processing. Both stopped the thought, they're not wanting to think about the past. So we have to deal with this now, don't we? The darker Naruto would nod. Or we are going to die to the demon. The only reason we aren't dead is because we are processing this faster than that thing can take our soul. So what haven't we? The blonde was cut off by himself. Stop acting like you don't know. We miss them. We can't get them back. The only person we thought would be here is gone too. And we can't do anything about it. But we can't live like it's all over. We can't just stand around as if they were all we had. Sure, they were all we had. Our friends. Our family. But they are gone. And they wouldn't want to see us fight ourselves just because of that. So why don't we just accept that? Silence would almost ring through the mindscape as the two only stared at each other. Because we can't. Both would sit down. You said don't lie to ourselves. Well, you're lying if you think it's that easy. And you're lying if you believe that it's not. The red-eyed boy would sigh as he put his arms out. Hell, look at who we got. We have friends, don't we? Two girls that like us for all we know. And you're sitting here acting like they can't help us through it all. We are the crazy, psychopathic, prankster god, black chakra, knuckle-headed, unpredictable shinobi. We have been through a lot. Now it's time for us to accept that we can still keep going. We have to forgive us. We have to beat the shit out of a demon. And finally, we have to accept that we are one and the same. No matter what. Naruto put his hand out to himself as both blinds grinned. The blue-eyed boy grabbed his counterpart's hand as they became one. Outside the mindscape, a sudden surge of chakra filled the whiskered blonde. A black swarm of energy flowed around the boy, fending off the demon who had grabbed the boy. Soon Naruto's eyes had rushed open as he stared in front of himself. The boy grabbed the blade that the figure had been holding alongside him and shook it off from the demon. The blonde kicked away from the demon and landed in front of it once more. How did you survive? You're only human. The boy would laugh. I've been telling myself that for years now. I'm not human. Not much anymore. But I still got my humanity. And with what I got, I'll take you down. Naruto grinned at his new assailant as his black chakra began to cover him in a cloak. The tailed cloak sprouted 3 tails. You're gonna be very hard to deal with. But hey. A demon isn't something I haven't felt with. The blonde's eyes went black with red slits as he formed a Rasengan in his right hand. The boy then put his blade away and crouched. Wind rushed around the boy, filling the area with power unlike anything ever seen before. As the aura of power formed, it wasn't seen in its usual blue. It was a roaring black as it swirls in a maelstrom. The ground cracked as Naruto began to cackle madly at the demon. Everyone only stared, with the only sounds being heard being from the blonde himself. And then, the boy disappeared. Naruto Q quickly sent the powerful attack into the demon, which knocked it to the ground. Finn had already used the time that Naruto have him to create a seal that seemed to absorb the demon. The whispered boy landed next to his friend, exhausted from what he had done. Before the thing was fully gone, Finn had grabbed Marceline's base from it and handed it to her as she walked over. The singing didn't go as planned, did it? Finn would look exhausted as he fell over. The boy had let the black-haired girl be the one to respond. No, it didn't. Finn summoned my dad from the Nightosphere. Naruto looked to the seal that Finn had made and looked back to the two. That was your dad? The girl would kiss his cheek and lay her head on his shoulder. Yeah, you and Finn kinda just banished him back to his domain. Luckily, you also cut the souls free. The blue-shifted boy would stare at Naruto and Marceline with a questioning look. Silence would only be filled when Finn had a thoughtful look and finally said what was on his mind. You two are like a thing now. Both would blush a bit but would have small smiles.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. I hope you share it with your friends, because you never know, they might like what ifs as well. And they especially might like my what ifs. And I hope that you like and subscribe, because that helps me out. We are always trying to reach greater numbers in the village hidden in the stories. So without further ado, all Kage out.